Thank you all for joining us this evening for our regular meeting of the Clayton City Council for Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. We are meeting by Zoom, as we have been doing for the last 5.5 months. And I hope you're all enjoying getting to see us personally from the comfort of your own living room or bedroom or wherever you're able to watch our meetings. Just a couple of things up in the front of the meeting to let you know that because we are on Zoom, we will be taking our public comment on all of our items via Zoom. We will be enabling the attendees. We will ask you to use the raise hand feature or hit *9 if you're on a phone to raise your hand. And when we recognize you, we will allow you to speak. We will unmute you, and you will have to make sure you are unmuted on your own end. The public comment period at this time looks like we will have our regular 3 minutes, but I will reserve the right when we come to public comment. If we have a huge number of people wanting to speak, we may reduce that to 2 minutes instead, because we don't want this meeting to go all night. I am calling this meeting of the Clayton City Council to get to order and indicate for the record, Janet, that all 5 of the council members are present. Mala, do you need a roll call? We can see everyone on the screen, so I think we're okay. We all look to be moving and alive, so that's a good thing. And so I would like to call upon Councilmember Diaz to lead the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would ask the rest of us all to keep our mouths shut. We may recite along silently, but otherwise let Councilmember Diaz recite the Pledge of Allegiance for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. The next item on our agenda is the consent calendar. These are relatively routine items that may be approved in one motion. Is there anything anyone wants to pull from the consent calendar for separate discussion? Seeing no one raise a hand, do we have a motion?
Move approval, Jim Diaz.
Okay, that was a tie. I will give the motion to Diaz and the second to Wolf, and ask Janet to call the roll, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pierce. Councilmember Catalano.
Aye.
Councilmember Diaz.
Yes.
Councilmember Wolf.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Juan.
Aye.
And Mayor Pierce.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. And at this time, we have a presentation. I am very honored to be able to introduce our Contra Costa County Health Officer, Chris Farnatano. He has been helping us deal with COVID in Contra Costa County for the last 5.5 months plus, and a more thankless job I cannot imagine. So I want to welcome Chris to our meeting and allow him to talk. And I have just unmuted him. I don't know how to move him from an attendee to a panelist. Fran, can you do that?
He was there just a moment.
Just did.
Yeah.
There it is.
There he is. There he is. Can you put your video on, Chris, or are you just going to be speaking?
Yeah. Give me just a second here.
Welcome to our meeting while you're finding the right button.
Here
there
we go.
You are. Wonderful. Good
All right,
to
thank
see you in
you.
Clayton.
Thank you for inviting me here. So I just wanted to give about a 5-minute update kind of where we are with the COVID-19 pandemic in the county and how it affects, specifically the town of Clayton. we really had a peak of transmission. It was really our second wave so far that really started in early June and accelerated into late June and early July and peaked around the middle or late of July. That second wave was much bigger than the first wave we had in kind of March and April. And with much higher case rates and much higher hospitalization rates, and unfortunately much higher death rates during the second wave than we had in the first wave. But the cases have and the hospitalizations have been slowly stabilizing and coming down since then across the county. The hospital cases peaked around the 1st of August. We had about 105 patients in the hospital. Then in late July, we had about 200 new cases of COVID a day in the county, and now it's slowly come down to about 100 cases a day. That's still much higher than we peaked in April with only around 20 cases a day. Our test positivity rates also are slowly coming down. We were running around 8% in July, and now we're down about 6%. The hospital numbers have come down more slowly, and we know there's a lag in that as people often don't get sick enough to be in the hospital till a week or two after they first catch COVID. And then some of these hospitalizations can be very long with people in the hospital for weeks and sometimes on a ventilator for weeks. But our hospital numbers, again, they peaked around 105 and they're running about 90 patients in local hospitals. And I think that, our best understanding is what happened is I think we opened up a lot of things in June, and it's possible we were opening things up a little too fast. We also saw a lot more social gatherings in June around Father's Day and Memorial Day, 4th of July, and I think we saw a lot of transmission related to gatherings. And then I think several things changed. The state came out with their state masking order, and then in July required some indoor businesses to close. I think the messages got out that that masking was really important, and the risks of unnecessary gatherings. So I think there was a lot of community really changed their behavior in July and August, and I think that's why we've been seeing some encouraging progress. I still have a lot of concern about the Labor Day weekend. And that coming up, and really encourage people to really be cautious about getting together with people outside of your own household. The other thing we saw in end of July was there was, with all the demand for testing nationwide with high rates all over the country, a lot of the labs got backed up, and so we had long turnaround time delays for test results, and sometimes it was taking a week or 2 weeks to get your test result back, which made the test not very effective. And then at the same time, the state was having some trouble with its data reporting system. So for our contact tracing teams that get the reports of positive cases and reach out to people to find out if they're able to isolate properly and find out who their contacts are so they can notify their contacts that they need to quarantine, that system was delayed. Now, both of those problems are much, much better now. So most of our test turnarounds are in 1 to 5 days now. Getting results back, 2 or 3 days is about the average for a lot of the tests. Some of them are still taking 4 or 5 days. And then the data glitches at the state mostly seem to be pretty resolved, and we're getting those reports in, just about as soon as the test results are done in the lab. The other new big thing is the state came out with a new 4-tiered framework for reopening. So with a very gradual frame of reopening, we, and as well as most of the Bay Area, is in the highest tier, or the purple tier. It's very similar to the state monitoring list as far as the restrictions that with a couple exceptions, like barbershops and hair salons can now move indoors starting yesterday. Speaking more locally about Clayton, Clayton has had 45 cases of COVID diagnosed, and 5 of those cases were in the last 2 weeks. And that's that's a higher rate per the population than some cities, and a lower rate than others. Your neighbor in Concord has had a much higher rate, 1,838 cases with 332 cases just in the last 2 weeks. And their case rate per 100,000, of course, they're a much bigger city, but they're about, per the size of their population, their rate's about 4 times higher than what Clayton is. There were a couple of questions sent to me before the meeting. One was about, why the numbers in Clayton were low and then they jumped recently. And some of that was due to the testing backlog and the reporting backlog that we're now catching up on. So we saw, cases from several weeks ago finally getting reported into the system. There was another question about why we don't have ICU and death data broken down by city on our county website, cchhealth.org/coronavirus. We actually do have the death data now broken out by city. We don't break it out, the ICU data by city, partly because you're starting to run into very small numbers, and there's concern about people going on the website and being able to identify individuals and learning that they have COVID, which is personal protected health information. So we have a whole data team that looks at which data we can put up on the web without giving away too much information about allowing people to individually identify someone. It's also, we do ask the hospitals to report a lot of data, and we are concerned about not asking hospitals to report too many different data sets, because they mostly need to focus on taking care of the patients and not spend their entire effort just on reporting lots of different numbers. But we're trying to work with the hospitals to get the key numbers from them without burying them in data requests. As far as the death data, Clayton has suffered 1 death from COVID-19 so far that we've recorded. And then just to say that overall, if you look at just our overall hospital capacity in the county, and that's COVID and non-COVID patients, our overall hospital numbers are slowly starting to increase. So like May 1st, we were about 800 patients in area hospitals, and now we're running about 1,000, which is a little above kind of what our typical average hospital census is. And part of that's the COVID patients, part of that's hospitals in May were not running a lot of routine elective care, and now they're back to resuming a lot of more routine care and elective care, like elective surgeries and things. But we are kind of concerned as the number goes up, as we're getting into the fall and winter season, where hospitals and ERs in a normal year get kind of stressed by the increase in patients from the flu and pneumonias that happen during the winter. So we are kind of keeping an eye on that. And then there's a question about, are deaths reported by where the death occurred or where the patient lived? And deaths are recorded based on the address of residence. So if there was a Clayton resident who was hospitalized in Alameda County and died in Alameda County, they would still be reported based on their official residence in Clayton, for example. That's pretty much all I have, other than, again, to repeat, to encourage folks. We've been making progress in the last month, and it's really all the community's work to work to help reduce the spread, and just encourage people to keep up being careful so we can keep the numbers heading in the right direction.
Thank you, Dr. Farnatano. I'm going to go to council for questions. I'm going to ask one to begin with Before our meeting, we were having a bit of a conversation as a council, noting that there are some public agencies starting to go back to in-person meetings. I personally think we're doing really well on Zoom, though many of us are getting really weary of it. And do you have any kind of idea on when that's likely to be permissible, or do you think that's going to depend totally on the facilities we have available?
So as public agencies, towns and cities are not prohibited from having in-person meetings if they follow, careful social distancing and things, although we strongly encourage virtual meetings as much as possible, just because any opportunity for gathering together poses a potential risk of spread. So we do have guidelines, and I can share those, send those to your council members about if you do decide to go ahead with in-person meetings, the protocols to follow to do it safely. But we again strongly recommend continuing virtual meetings whenever possible.
I appreciate that. We actually have 14 of us on staff and council in this meeting, and we have right at this moment 55 attendees, which would put us upwards of 70 people in one meeting room, and we don't really have capacity to spread out doing that. So we're getting a higher attendance now than we very likely would have had we been even in in-person meetings. So I think that's great. Council members, questions for Dr. Farnetano? Jim?
Yeah, I have several. By the way, I want to compliment the doctor on the information that's now available on the website. For a while there, it was a little lacking in my view, but you have really expanded it, and it has provided more definitive data that is more useful to the observer that's concerned. And we have a good deal of senior members of our community, many of whom have called me, and you've sort of answered the question about the spike, because I know we were flat at about 5 identified cases, then all of a sudden now we creeped up, and now we're at 45. But as you pointed out, one death, that is very, very, very encouraging. Are the cases for Clayton identified essentially by zip code? Because we have a pretty expansive zip code that goes beyond the city boundary.
Yeah, they are. We use it based on what's in the state reporting system, which is CalReady is what the system's called, and that it classifies things by zip code. So that includes, for some cities, incorporated and unincorporated areas.
Right. Yeah. And further, based upon the fact that there is a general, it appears, increase in the number of identified cases that you've outlined around the general area for us, are there any places that you have and your agency has identified that are places of concern? Let me just give an example. I know we all have to wear masks and be very cautious of that, and I think most I've seen all of our citizens are. But do we need to be cautious about going to the market, going to the bank, going to the gas station, where there is a general congregation of people that might expose us to the virus? Have you been able to identify any specific locations?
Well, I think some of it we learned from the outbreaks we've been able to identify in our county, and some of it we're learning from experience of other counties and other states. I think in general, we're most concerned about indoor settings, settings where large numbers of people gather, especially if it's involving food and drink, because people are taking their masks off to food and drink, which is why indoor restaurants, and indoor bars were a particular concern, because people are there in small areas crowded together, and they're not wearing masks while they're eating and drinking and talking. So those are the most concerning kind of settings. Also outdoors definitely seems to be safer than indoors, because the way the air helps kind of spread out. Because we think, with this virus, it's the amount of virus you get exposed to, and so that's a factor of how close you are to somebody, how long you are close to that person, over how much time, and then does the air stagnant like indoor air where the virus just kind of hangs around there, or is it outdoors where it tends to kind of spread out and dissipate? And so a backyard barbecue is concerning, but a indoor get-together, indoor birthday party would be even more concerning because of the indoor, location.
Got it. Final question that I have is, are people being identified in generally three areas? Their personal physician, the hospital, or a testing site? Is that generally how people are getting tested? And then you mentioned that the test results are coming back in 2 to 3 days generally on average, and then 5 days if they outside.
Yeah, that's, we have about 8 county-run testing sites, as well as 3 state-run testing sites. Kaiser, which is a big care provider, they do a lot of testing for people who are Kaiser members. Our different community hospitals do a lot of testing. Many physician offices that are part of networks. That's not every physician office can do testing, but a lot of physicians are part of a network, a John Muir Health or the La Clinica, and they have, one of their sites is set up for testing.
Great. Thank you, Doctor. And again, excellent data that's on the website now.
Well, we have a data team that's continuing to improve it. So
right.
There'll be more improvements coming.
Thank you.
On that note, I would just note, I would love to see your charts posted in a JPEG form so we can immediately post them to Facebook and things like that. Otherwise, I have to download the PDF and convert it. It would be lovely to be able to just go straight from your web page to our social media to let the public know what's going on. Not all of our users are as sophisticated as going to find the county site. I have lots of them that say, give me the county site again, I lost it. So just being able to repost would be great.
I'll bring that back to our data team and see if they can do that.
Thanks, Chris. Tuya?
So thank you very much for being available. I'm sure you're in high demand for presentations and information, so appreciate you talking to Clayton folks. So my question, I think, is a little bit more of a PSA regarding the mask wearing. And specific, I think everybody knows we should be wearing masks. It's a smart thing to do for many reasons. But, now there's been a lot of discussion about the different types of masks. I know I have one kid who will not wear anything other than N95 when she goes out to public. But there are other masks, the disposable ones, the cloth ones. So do you have any recommendations on, what's the better one to use for members of the public?
Yeah, and there's definitely, different types of masks, and some are more, effective than others. Probably at the highest level are those N95 masks, that often, when they're used in medical care, the employees are specifically tested, what we call fit testing, to make sure they form a really good seal. So if you don't have a good seal, it may not be as effective. The next level is what we call like a surgical mask or a medical grade paper mask, and those also provide a high level of protection, but they don't create a seal, so it does allow air to kind of leak in and around the sides of the mask. The next level down would be some kind of a cloth mask, and the best ones are ones that do form a pretty snug fit around the face. Some have a little piece of metal on the bridge of the nose. You can fit it more tightly against the nose. So I think if you're looking for a cloth mask, look for a mask that fits fairly tightly. Thicker is generally better, but you don't want it too thick that you can't breathe, but you want it as thick enough as that it can be comfortable. Some masks have a little pocket. You can, like this I don't know if you can see, it doesn't really show up well on Zoom. But you can have a mask like this that's got a little pocket, and you can actually put an extra layer in it. I actually cut up a little surgical mask and put that in as an extra layer. So
I keep my money in there. I keep my money.
You could keep your paper money in there too.
Okay, CW.
Okay, yeah, and I on that same subject, I just watched a thing on the Today Show, and they were talking about if you take a match and you hold it out about 6 inches from your face and you blow through your mask, if you can blow out the match, then it's not a good mask. I got a couple of questions from people on email. So when they found out you were going to be here, so of the cases and specifically of the death in Clayton, what is the demographic of that? We have a senior center here. Was that mostly our senior center, or was that from the general public? Do you have any data or know anything about that?
Yeah. So again, like I was saying, we have to be careful about giving too many details because we want to protect people's privacy. So giving out a lot of details about an individual case is, we try not to do that. I can talk in general about the deaths through our county. We have seen about 2/3 of them have been in nursing homes and assisted living facilities for the elderly, although the proportion of the cases more recently is starting to drop. I think part of that is because I think we are doing a much better job of trying to protect our fragile elderly. Since June, we've been requiring that these facilities test all their staff on at least a monthly basis. And so we're often picking up 1 or 2 staff members with COVID before it spreads to the whole facility. So we've had fewer large outbreaks in those facilities and more of just 1 or 2 cases. And then I think at the same time, we're seeing a shift in cases to younger individuals, mostly the kind of working age individuals, folks who can't really stay at home all the time. They're going out to work. They're often in public facing employment, service industries, and then they may be bringing it back to their families. We see a lot of spread in families once one person gets the case of COVID. So we are seeing more deaths in people in their 50s and 60s than we were seeing earlier. And so that's more of a shift towards people living in the community rather than living in nursing homes.
Okay, and then I just got 2 quick questions. What is the purpose of testing? That was the other question. If a test takes 5 days to get back to you, but it's only good for 2 days, what is the whole purpose of testing? Let me see if I got that right. Yes, yeah. What is the purpose of testing?
Yeah, no, I agree. If the test takes a long time, it uses much of its usefulness. I mean, it's still helpful for us to kind of understand where the disease is spreading in the community. But as far as, the main goal of testing is so someone knows they have COVID so they can appropriately isolate themselves and from others and keep from spreading the virus to others, and that we can notify their close contacts who may have already been exposed so they can also quarantine and stay away. And the whole idea is we can interrupt the spread of COVID, and the sooner we get that test result, the sooner we can act on it. And so, the first getting tests back in 1 or 2 days is much more helpful than, 5 or 6 days when a lot of spread may have already happened. So I'm really pleased we're finally getting the test turnaround time back to where it should be.
And then finally, what is the guidance? Just to reiterate the guidance on when you're supposed to wear a mask. Is it every time you leave your house? Is it working out? Is it running down the trails? What is the guidance?
So it's really anytime you're in a business, anytime you are within 6 feet of someone who's not part of your household, So if you're out, walking on a trail or riding a bike, and you're staying 6 feet apart from other people, you don't have to wear a mask, but you should bring one with you. I mean, I was out for my morning walk this morning. I always bring my mask, and I keep it in my hand because by the time I realize somebody's coming up to me, I don't want to be fishing in my pocket. So I just carry it in my hand and throw it on before I get within 6 feet of someone. And most of the purpose of the mask is to protect others. So you're reducing how much virus is getting past the mask and getting to others. Well, there's some evidence that the mask also protects yourself as well, by reducing the amount of virus that you might get exposed to if you do get close to a cloud of virus from someone.
That's all I got.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. And thanks, Laura Hoffmeister, for having this presentation. Appreciate it.
Exactly. Jeff, did you have anything?
No, I just wanted to thank the doctor. I think that was very useful information. So thank you for coming.
I'm going to push just a little on our time and ask if there's anyone in our attendees that would like to ask a question of the doctor. Okay, I have one raised hand, two raised hands, and I will go first to, I'm trying to see who that is. Sandy Maza, you're going first. I will allow you to talk. Need you to unmute, Sandy.
Thank you.
Very good. Go ahead.
I just wondered why we are being treated with such a broad brush in the state, and why our little town has no autonomy regarding our getting back to inside dining. Outside dining is going to get really rugged when it starts raining, and we want to support our local businesses here in Clayton. So how is that going to work for us?
Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, and I understand that the tension between kind of local control versus, countywide or statewide control. Part of the challenge is no city is an island. People, travel and work across the county, across the Bay Area. And so, if indoor dining was allowed in one city, people from other cities would be traveling to be customers there. There'd be the employees traveling to work there. And even trying to limit, set things at a county level is challenges, because there's, folks from Alameda County traveling to Contra Costa County and traveling over to across the Benicia Bridge up to Solano County. So, there's trying to strike a balance between trying to be consistent to avoid, spread, but also to try to account for, local conditions. Certainly, you go to far northeast Modoc County, where they have very few cases and a very rural population, that, they have a strong argument that they can open up a lot more than the urban Bay Area. But, it is sort of a tension between local control and trying to be consistent.
Thank you, Doctor. The next speaker is David Sanchez, and I will allow you to talk. Will you please unmute?
Good evening. I was hoping you could speak to the general public's reluctance to receive a vaccination for COVID when it becomes available. And I was hoping you could speak from a public health standpoint to the efficacy of vaccinations in general, and how herd immunity works, and what types of populations or what percentage of populations are needed typically with coronavirus. Obviously, we don't know this particular virus, but previous coronavirus viruses, in terms of vaccinations and how that is effective in a community.
Yeah, so, we still don't know that much about, a future COVID vaccine, because there hasn't been one that's been approved yet. We know that the vaccine, there are several candidates that are in what we call phase 3 trials. So the phase 1 trial is really kind of a safety trial to make sure it doesn't cause severe side effects. Phase 2 trials are a little bit more about safety and also trying to get a little bit of a hint on are they really effective. But they're still using small numbers, dozens or hundreds of people. The phase 3 trials are really involving, tens of thousands of individuals. The idea is, not only collect a lot more information about safety, looking for rare side effects that you might not pick up with a trial of 100 or 200 people, and also really get to identify how effective it is. And most of the experts feel like the FDA is going to approve something, and I think some of the FDA and national experts have said that they're looking for a vaccine that's going to be at least 50% effective for it to be worthy of being approved by the FDA. Now, some vaccines are much more effective than that. Like the measles vaccine is like 90 to 95% effective. But some vaccines are less effective. So our flu vaccine, for example, is, depending on the year and the match with the strain, it can be 50, 60, 70% effective. Sometimes in older individuals who don't always respond as well to vaccines, it could be less than 50% effective. But we know, and that's why people who get the flu vaccine sometimes still wind up getting the flu later that season because the vaccine's not always effective. But the goal is, if we had a vaccine that was at least 50% effective, not only is a good chance of protecting that person, and then if they did get sick, they might not get quite as sick, because even if it didn't prevent infection, it might help your body fight the infection and you not get as sick. But that if we have enough of the population get a vaccine, then that helps reduce the spread of the virus, because there's something called an R0 number, which is on average each person who has COVID, how many other people they spread the virus to. And when that number is greater than 1, it means that it's spreading the virus to more than one person, and over time, it's like that old commercial, she told 2 friends and they told 2 friends and so on, and the number really grows. Right now, our R0 is a little bit less than 1, which is why our cases are going down. But when the cases start going up, it's because that number is slightly more than 1. But if someone has COVID and every other person they run into has been vaccinated and the vaccine was effective, that means that's half as many people they're going to wind up spreading the virus to. And so that can be enough, even if a virus is only 50% effective, that can be enough to make the difference between the case numbers going up and the case numbers going down in a community. So it doesn't have to be a 90 or 95% effective virus to make a really big difference in the amount of COVID getting spread in the county and the state and the country.
Thank you, Doctor. And I'll go next to Denise Stevens and ask you to unmute.
Hello, Doctor. Thank you for joining our Zoom meeting. I have a question regarding some information that's been in the news about cases coming from Southern California that overflow into our Bay Area hospitals. And I was wondering if any of the overflow from the Southern California hospitals are making its way into the Contra Costa hospitals.
Southern California as a whole is experiencing higher rates of cases and hospitalizations, with the exception of San Diego, which now actually has much lower rates. In fact, they're in the red zone now in this new 4-color category. We do about once a week, we do poll our hospitals to find out how many out-of-county residents are in our local hospitals. We also poll Alameda County's hospitals to find out how many of our Contra Costa residents are in hospitals over there, because we know especially in West County there's a lot of folks get their care in Alameda County. So what we're finding is about 10 to 12 residents from other counties are hospitalized in our county. Most of those are from neighboring counties. I don't know if we have any from Southern California this week, but when we looked at it before, it was at the most 1 or 2 Southern California residents, and that was mostly when Imperial County was really in a tight crunch. Their one hospital was really overwhelmed, and they were transporting patients all over the state because even their neighborhood counties were getting overwhelmed with too many patients. But at the most, we had 1 or maybe 2 of those patients in our area hospitals, and I don't think we've had any for at least a month or so. On the other side, we're averaging about 15 or 20 Contra Costa residents who are hospitalized in Alameda County hospitals, Kaiser Oakland or Alta Bates or Highland Hospital.
All right. I don't see any other raised hands from our audience. Any other questions from our council? Yes, Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, just one final one, Doctor. Contact tracing. What's the status of that?
Yeah, so we've now really staffed up our contact tracing unit. We've got about 200 staff who are doing case investigations and contact tracing. We are reaching out to every single case, trying to make contact with every single case, and then trying to find their contacts and reach out to every single one of their contacts. Now that the testing and reporting problems have improved, they're able to reach them much quicker. There's still a lot of challenges in this day and age of people reluctant to answer their phone. So they're doing a lot of text messaging now because people are more likely to respond to a text than a phone call. There's still some reluctance of people willing to share their contacts. And there are multiple reasons for that. Just distrust of government, but sometimes it's fear of they're getting in trouble with their employer or other kind of things. So we really try, our teams try to really build trust and build rapport with individuals. But those are, some of the challenges we sometimes face. But we try to reach every case and try to reach every contact that we get.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Farnatono. This has been really illuminating. I think it's very helpful for us to hear directly from you about what's happening here in the county and specifically in Clayton, and to understand better how the numbers work and what they really represent. So we appreciate it. We appreciate everything you're doing to help keep us safe. And hopefully you are staying safe and getting a little bit of rest during this frantic time that we're all in. But thank you so much. We really appreciate your coming to our meeting today.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, Council, we will now go to reports. And we have no Planning Commission meetings held. We have no Trails and Landscape Committee meetings held. Go to City Manager and Staff Report. Fran?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Just 2 quick items tonight. One, I wanted to extend a special thanks to Chief Warren and her team this weekend, who spent several hours planning the response to the demonstration that occurred in Clayton. It was actually a moving crowd that started at Clayton Station and then ended up in downtown Clayton. And the police, we had an incident-free demonstration. There were some challenging and times that the police had to exercise their ability to use their verbal skills to communicate with that crowd. And I just wanted to extend a special thank you to that team. They did an excellent job. And then second, I wanted to remind you the mayor's conference is this Thursday. And the PMA, which is the group that is all of the city managers in the county, will be present. And that group will be presenting a regional idea about addressing mental health and policing. And we have been working diligently with the county health team to share some ideas with all of the electeds in the region and get your feedback on approach to this very important topic right now that we're facing. So I encourage you to attend if you can. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Okay, we will go to City Council reports. Jeff, you want to go first?
Sure. So Councilmember Wolf and I met with Chief Warren as part of the ad hoc committee for the Regency Gate preferential parking program. The intent was to kind of go over some of the results of what we've seen over the last, as long as the program's been in place, and go over some potential alternatives for the program and what we want to bring forward back to the full council. I think the intent is to take a look at this program. It's currently in a pilot, and so we want to bring back the results and recommendations at a future meeting, which I believe is scheduled currently for the early part of October. And so that was it. We'll have more details as we move forward. Other than that, since our last time where we were all sitting at the same location looking exactly the same, mostly speaking with the residents and a lot of email and phone calls. So it's the best way to get in contact with folks nowadays when you can't go out and about. So.
Thanks,
Carl,
Jeff.
you can add anything. Yeah, you can add anything I may have missed.
Okay, very good. We'll go ahead, CW, you pick up. Fill in
well, yes, and I don't have anything to add to what Vice Mayor Juan said. We're looking forward to getting all the recommendations from the pilot program. Excuse me. I want to also piggyback a little bit on what Fran reported with regard to the demonstration, excuse me, this weekend. There's some misconception out there in the public that we somehow permit these things or we allow these things or we have something to do with why these protests are allowed. The reality is this is a right. And as long as they're peaceful protesting, this is a right for them to do. We just try to accommodate as best we can and try to keep it as peaceful as we can. And I think that with this particular one, our police force did a great job. Aside from meeting with Vice Mayor Juan and Chief Warren on the ad hoc committee, I want to also give my time here to the fact that we lost a great Claytonian over the last week or so. Roy Richmond, who was our CBCA Barbecue Cook-Off Committee chairperson, was a fantastic guy, a guy that would give you his shirt off his back. And there's going to be an article coming out about him in the Pioneer, the next Pioneer. And I want to encourage everybody to read that article to find out what a great gem of a guy he was in a super Claytonian. If there is a such thing about character in this town, what character is about this town, he was it. And I'll miss him personally, and our town is going to miss him greatly. And so I would ask that we adjourn tonight's meeting in his honor and dedicate tonight's meeting to him. That's my report.
We will absolutely do that. Tuya?
So a couple items. So I attended the East Contra Costa County Habitat Conservancy Board meeting on Friday, August 21st. Then I also watched the League of Cities East Bay Division meeting on Thursday, August 27th. And then as a community member, have participated in a number of the Race Relations Committee meetings, and want to just note that the next and third webinar is going to be held tomorrow night, Wednesday, starting at 6:30 p.m. And you can you can search for the link. It's on Facebook, Instagram, and so forth. But the perspective this time is our youth. So the participants are going to be our local high school students and some few students who are in college as well.
Thanks to you, Jim.
Thank you. Had a number of meetings with the interim city manager, staying on top of what's going on within the city. Also met with the chief of police, and I want to also commend the chief and in particular Sergeant Rich Ania, who handled the interfacing with the community and the so-called protesters. And it did get a little dicey there at one point from what I understand, but Rich, the team, the chief, all handled it very well and professionally. Continuing to work with as an advisor to the Morgan Territory CERT establishment, that's the Community Emergency Response Team efforts. That's getting very interesting. They've got their articles of incorporation and all that. They're going to be moving forward with more details. Finally, I did attend on the virtual, the East Bay Division League meeting that Tuya mentioned, and had a very interesting presentation from Stephen Mendanian, who is one of the directors of research at UC Berkeley. And he addressed a whole variety of issues, some of which can affect Clayton if there's a way to, and that's part of the process of identifying it. But his thesis was generally on fair housing, inequality within the Bay Area, and diversity. And he went through pretty interesting set of stats that addressed how a community can address those three issues. A community like Clayton, and the one that particularly stood out was Piedmont. They are completely built out and had no way to offer some additional housing capacity. We may, and we need to be sensitive to those three areas so that when development comes, and if it is reasonable to be able to accommodate those goals. Very interesting, and I know that there'll be more coming from the league and other sources on that, and but a very, very interesting meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I only had 2 meetings in the last couple of weeks because most of the committees that we all participate in take the month of August off, but not all. So I did have an executive board meeting with the Association of Bay Area Governments, and we've had 2 meetings of the Housing Methodology Committee in the last 2 weeks, and we will have 2 more in the next 2 weeks. So things are moving along quickly there, and they're coming to a point where we will be making some decisions and recommendations. And I will be giving an update to the mayor's conference on Thursday night. So those are the meetings that I attended. I will go back to the Planning Commission report, as I am now aware that Bassam Altwell is in our audience, and I'm going to ask Bassam to unmute. You are unmuted. Can you speak, Bassam?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Speak up just a little bit.
Okay, on Tuesday, August 25th, the Planning Commission met to discuss only one item on the agenda. All 5 planners were present. The item was the temporary use permit 06-2020, and it relates to extension for outdoor dining in commercial areas. And under the guidance of our chairman, Mr. Cloven, the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to pass this temporary use permit to allow our restaurants to keep operating without interruption, with outside seating. And that was the only item on our agenda.
Wonderful. Any questions of Bassam from the council? Hearing none. Thank you, Bassam. Thanks for being patient with me, and thanks for all the work you guys are doing on the Planning Commission. Okay, very good. Now, I am next going to go to under reports. We have the introduction of the city council candidates, as we will have every meeting between now and the election. And last time we went in the order exactly as they will be listed on your ballots. This time we are going to start with the number 2 spot on the ballot, and we will rotate through. Each meeting we will drop down one more and start with that person. So this time we are going to start with Frank Gavidia, and I am going to promote him to a panelist so you may see him for the moment and allow him to talk. So Frank, can you unmute and turn on your video? Okay. Trying to get you on here, Frank.
I think I can
There
see
you are.
it.
I see you.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, fellow Clayton citizens and members of the City Council. My name is Frank Gavidia, and I'm running for City Council. Clayton is a great community. I grew up across the bay and moved here in 2000. I raised my daughter in this little town and have had so many wonderful experiences here. From the minute we moved into Clayton, my family and I have loved it here. This week I wrote an article about how to unite our city. It seems that since 2018 we have not been the once quiet community we were. Despite some of the more difficult issues this city has faced since 2018, I believe that the city council member has a duty to work to unite the citizens of our wonderful town. I believe that holding mayor's office hours once in a while just isn't enough. In my article, I laid out concrete actions I would take when elected to help unite the city. And it starts with being available to you, the citizens. In this modern era, we should be available via any medium possible. But it also means making the time. In 2018, citizens wanted town halls, particularly on weekends. Those requests fell upon deaf ears. I will work tirelessly to make sure we have those town halls. And though we have Zoom now, I would still make the time on weekends to host those town halls. If you're a citizen that is not happy or disagrees with something in the city, I will reach out to you. In my article this week, I wrote about how only one council member left his chair and asked to speak to me when I was at council meetings quite a bit in 2018. Sadly, no other member made any effort to try to talk to me. Citizens should not have to come to council members. Rather, council members should approach citizens. I believe a city council member should not limit himself or herself to a small circle of influence. Councilman Diaz made that effort. I wish the other council members had made the same effort. I do know that Councilman Juan also speaks to everyone, and I believe Councilman Wolf does too. In the days since I began campaigning, I've made every effort to meet with everyone in person. I've delivered signs myself so I can meet people. I'm very comfortable engaging with anyone, regardless if they support my campaign. And this is where I think I can be most effective. We can disagree without being disagreeable. One thing I will never do is stare vaguely at a citizen and remain silent. We can't find common ground if we don't seek out discussion. And I will never label folks who disagree with a vote as a vocal minority or dismiss people as reacting emotionally. We work for you, the citizens. I will take the initiative with this issue as I will with the other issues I presented so far. You can read my full article on how to unite Clayton and end the divide on my website, frankforclayton.com, or find me on Facebook, frankforclayton.com. I have several articles up there, and I will continue to write about substantive issues every week between now and the election. Keeping you informed is also a priority for me. I'm running for City Council to represent you and work hard for you. We need to do better, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Our next speaker is Glenn Miller. I'm promoting you to a panelist temporarily. And there you are, and you are unmuted. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes, Glenn.
Yes, good evening, council members and citizens of Clayton. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Frank talked about accountability, and I totally agree. I will be having my signs out this week, and you'll see that I am talking about accountability and results. There are some issues, and I thought today was a very positive presentation by Councilmember Diaz in regards to the unique aspects of our geography and the type of family housing that we seek to have. I have long advocated the planned development route, and as a council member, I would advocate to do that. So there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all for Clayton. But as far as accountability is concerned, I've spent many years looking at certain scopes of work on different things. Our county, our city is run by assessments. Look at your tax bill. Each of every type of aspect of our life is run by assessments. Lighting, landscape and maintenance districts. We have others. Many different areas have assessments. Yet, how does that money get spent? How does it get allocated? First of all, you need a scope of work, and then they prepare a budget. But does that budget get spent on? And what happens when the monies don't get spent, or what happens when the work doesn't get done? I think you'd find that those monies get transferred to the general fund. I believe that those monies should stay with the assessments, and a reserve account should be made. That's just one of the ideas that I'd like to purport in the next couple sessions. But I am running to make sure that those people that are in the city are accountable to the assessment districts that we have pledged to pay our taxes, and I want to see that the work gets done. I just recently, in this past week, found out that there haven't been doing something in a very vital area, and there'll be more of that to come in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. The next speaker, in order of the way they will be on the ballot, is Jim Diaz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening again to the council and to the citizens of Clayton that are watching us on Zoom tonight. Again, I am Jim Diaz. I am a current city council member, and I'm seeking re-election to do the same thing and continue what we have done, particularly my 3 primary goals: public safety, improving our quality of life, and listening to people. Regarding public safety, that has been one of the primary things that I believe that we as city council people ought to espouse. We have got a wonderful community here, and we want to keep it safe. We have one of the lowest crime rates in Contra Costa County, and I want to make sure that we put everything in place to make sure that we continue to be that one of those leaders in that area. Improving our quality of life. We can do that by being disciplined in our reception to new development area, and that's one that I have really taken a step forward. As you may recall, there's been a little bit of controversy over the fact that maybe some of the zoning that this council has enacted may have enhanced a project that is currently in litigation, known as the Olivia project. I elected to vote no on that simply because I don't believe it was well thought out. It took into consideration the number of units that are acceptable to the community, and that the parking and the overflow potential for parking flowing out onto Marsh Creek Road or over into the Stranahan area is going to be a major concern. Marsh Creek Road is only 2 lanes. There's a bike lane on each side. That too concerns me and why I elected to vote no. Listening to people, that's one thing I've always done. And I have always been accessible. Primarily, we've had our events curtailed in the city, but during the time when we were able to have our Concerts in the Grove, the Art and Wine Festival, the barbecue, I was available. People approached me, and they were able to express their concerns to me, which I took back to the city council and acted accordingly. I look for continued support for another term. ReelectJimDiaz.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. The next speaker is Tuya Catalano.
Good evening. I'm Tuya Catalano. I'm a mom of 2 teenagers and a Clayton homeowner since 2005. I'm currently serving my first term on the council and was honored to be your mayor last year. One of the themes that is emerging in this election is local control. This comes up particularly in housing topics, in part because quite a bit has changed in housing regulations at the state level in the last few years that also impacts how and what we do in Clayton. No one that I know of wants high-density housing in Clayton, including me. And I do expect also all 6 candidates to want to protect Clayton. But there's a huge difference between words and consequences. By way of an example, 2 years ago, Clayton adopted the most restrictive parallel housing ordinance in the county. Anything more restrictive would have been a ban or a de facto ban. A Southern California city had already tested a ban. They were sued, they lost, they paid for the lawsuit, and ended up with a very permissive parallel regulation. At least one candidate here talked in favor of a complete ban, and at a hearing said, quote, let it be a test case, unquote, inviting a legal challenge to Clayton. That ordinance that we adopted is a great example of whether you want your leadership to be smart about how they manage state requirements or one that will bankrupt our city on unnecessary or unwinnable lawsuits or create a path of consequences that are hurtful to maintaining Clayton as it is today. On parallel housing, we know what the outcome has been. We have 2 years of actual data in Clayton. Instead of spending taxpayer monies on a test case, we adopted a legally defensible ordinance, and in the last 2 years, we've had no parallel homes, no applications, and no inquiries on new parallel homes. Standing up to the state sounds bold and protective, but it's just empty words when one does not have any real plan behind those words or any foresight to see what the next steps or consequences are. Standing up to the state is irresponsible if one does not understand what are the existing state laws and mandates that apply to cities like Clayton and how those can be enforced by the state or third parties. Election is certainly about choices, and one choice this November is clear, and that is whether our voters want council members who talk a big game with unrealistic expectations or those who make tough and sometimes unpopular decisions in order to truly protect Clayton. So when a candidate wants us to be a test case in court, the next question should be, what happens when you lose and what city expenditures will be cut to pay for that? Given how small our budget is, we will see and feel all the consequences, whether they result in inability to fund landscaping, police services, or something else. If re-elected, I will continue to govern in a fiscally responsible and inclusive manner, and I will not risk our taxpayer and city monies on irresponsible rhetoric. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tuya. And our next speaker is Peter Cloven, if he's here. I am searching for him. I'm going to ask staff to see if they see him in the list.
I just moved him over, Mayor.
Thank you. Peter, you can unmute. There you are. You are live. If you can unmute. Unmute you.
Hi, my name is Rochelle Cloven, and I'm here to introduce my dad, Peter, and I would love it if you would vote for him for Clayton City Council.
Thanks, Rochelle. I am Peter Cloven. and I'm currently the chairperson of the Clayton Planning Commission. I'm also a 14-year resident and father of 2 teenage daughters, and you just met one of them. I am a fiscally conservative small businessman. I'm an owner of an environmental consulting firm, and we do business with real estate development and financiers and regulators. But most of all, I love Clayton. I mean, Clayton is the community that has given so much to my family and all that we do, whether it's dance or swim team or AYSO soccer or going to church on Sunday at Clayton Valley Presbyterian Church. Now, as a business owner and a father, I know that time is valuable. But Clayton has been good to my family, and you got to give back to the things they give to you. And as such, I feel it's important to teach my daughters civic responsibility and to do the right thing when you are called to do so. And that is why I'm running for city council. I want to be at the table when we shape the vision of Clayton for our future, such that we conserve Clayton's character. So we face significant challenges with Sacramento as they put down one-size-fits-all legislation. It's going to impact our city. I want to be very clear. I don't like these changes. Very clear. And I prefer that our small town get passed over with no need to actually upzone properties to fit Sacramento's voracious appetite for high-density housing. However, as a city councilman, you cannot go into a review of an ordinance, a zoning discussion, or any project with a predetermined no. You have a legal and fiduciary responsibility to do the right thing, to do you do diligence to come up with a decision that's best for all of Clayton. Now, I'm fiercely independent in all my analysis and decisions. I don't have a preconceived agenda. Each decision I will have will be culled from research and data and listening to the public. Now, I understand there are some hard decisions to be made ahead, and I may not like all the alternatives, but you can always trust me to come up with a decision that is ultimately in the best interest of Clayton. You see, I have some ideas, but I don't have all the answers to the challenges that face us ahead. Based on my experience as a resident that was fighting change for our environmental project and a planning commissioner was having to deal with hard choices, you know, in the end, I knew that the answer lies within listening to informed citizens and city council members and staff, and that we can come up as a community with the best solutions for our future. You can always count on me to be the model of civility and do the right thing. I'm last on the ballot, but I'm first in my love for Clayton. Please get to know me through my website, clovenforclayton.com.
Thank you, Peter.
Very much for your support.
Thank you, Peter. Our next speaker is Holly Tillman, and we'll move Holly up and allow her to talk. There she is. Unmute.
Backwards.
Thank you, Holly.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I'm Holly Tillman, and I'm married to Matt. We've been residents of Clayton for 17 years, and we're raising 2 daughters, Jordan and Jada. They're both students at Northgate High School. Some of you may know me in town. I'm an avid volunteer. I've been volunteering for about 10 years. I served as the Mount Diablo Elementary School PFC president, as well as the vice president of education. I was also on the site council and part of the playfield committee, which put in the grass at the elementary school. I've also served as the St. Bonaventure coordinator, and my husband and I run that track program, the track and field program there. I'm also a CBCA volunteer, and I've served as the secretary of the board for 2 years now. And I'm also a founding member of Clayton Speaks, which was formed from concerned residents who wanted to move the race relations conversations forward after we had our rally on June 5th down at the Grove Park. We wanted to continue those important conversations with the community. And in fact, we have our 3rd webinar that will be featured by local students that will be running that webinar, and I invite all of you guys to join it. You can reach out to Clayton Speaks on Instagram or on Facebook to find out more information about that. But I'm running for city council because I want to help move Clayton into the future in a more positive direction. Right now, our city is very fractured. I'm very concerned with the dialogue that I'm hearing from several residents, and it's been going on. I think it was Frank who said since 2018. I think it actually began before then, but it did turn very ugly in 2018, and I'm hoping to move it towards more positive and respectful dialogue, which I think is critical to all of us moving forward together in the future. Ways that I could do that are through community, inclusivity, and transparency as a city council member. Excuse me. All of those are centered around having conversations, because I think part of the problem is our neighbors don't know each other. I think we need to get to a point where we have direct conversations with each other. I'm enjoying all the conversations that I'm having as I'm putting out my signs with all the residents. If some of you are on my social media, you can see that I'm taking pictures with everybody, socially distanced and with masks if we're not. But it's great to be able to hear the concerns, because people do have varying concerns, whether it's about the Olivia project and the housing, high-density housing issue, whether it's about racism, whether it's about safety for their kids and the traffic management. All of those are critical and key issues that I will be focusing on for the next few weeks. Again, I want us to be a welcoming community. I think that the transparency needs to be at the city council level and engaging the community before there are bigger issues. I think that we need to figure out a way to get that word out so that people can engage sooner rather than later. And if you want more information, you can reach out to me at Holly for claytoncity.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. And that is all 6 of our Clayton City Council candidates you have just heard from this evening. And we have 60 people in our audience at this moment. So we are very well attended this evening, and I'm sure there are quite a few more who will be watching this when it is rebroadcast and posted on our website. The next item on the agenda is public comment. This is the time for comment on items that are not listed on tonight's agenda. And they are items that have to do with the purview of the Clayton City Council, city business. This is not a campaign speech time, although technically that's allowed. That's not the intent of public comment. So I would ask everyone to please be respectful, and we will have, can I get a show of hands? How many people want to speak under public comment? Please raise your hand. I'll give you a second to find the raise hand button if you wish to speak under public comment. Okay, I only see 4 hands raised right now. So we will go to, they are populating a little bit. We're going to go with 3 minutes. If we get too many more, we may have to cut it back to 2, but we'll start with 3 minutes. Our first speaker is Scott Denslow, followed by Frank Gavidia. Scott, I'm allowing you to talk. Please unmute.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Perfect. So I just want to take an opportunity. I know you guys know I'm a big supporter of the protesters and all that kind of stuff, but I really wanted to take a second to thank our police force. My wife and I were out there on Saturday evening, and as much as we support a lot of these efforts, there was some ugliness going on from a lot of the protesters there. And Chief Warren, Sergeant Anea, our entire police force, you guys, really proud of you guys. You did a great job. You really had to put up with some stuff that, like I said, some ugly stuff, people right up in your face. And that's what I saw, you know, is what policing is supposed to be about. And you guys did a great job. Job well done. That's point 1. Point 2, just to piggyback on what Tuya was saying earlier, just everybody tune into this webinar tomorrow night if you can on Wednesday. These kids in Clayton have some powerful, powerful stories to share. So if you got a few minutes, tune in, find it on Clayton Speaks, whatever. You know where to find us. So enjoy the rest of the meeting, guys.
Hey, Scott, what time is that?
6:30 p.m. Sorry about that, C-Dub.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. We will next go to Frank Gavidia. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Frank. Go ahead, Frank.
Okay, you can't tell on this screen. I wanted to thank Chief Warren as well. I know how hard all of our police force is working. I talked to several of them. They're not just working here in Clayton. They're working long hours elsewhere, overtime, helping the other cities. Our police are fantastic. These situations that are arising, I know it tests them, but they do very, very good work. And I am very proud of our police force here in Clayton. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Frank. We will next go to Irina Liskovich. You can unmute yourself. There you go. You're on.
Okay. Well, I have just one thing to say. Article 2, Section 6 of California Constitution provides elections for county, city, school, and judicial offices are nonpartisan, and political party affiliations are not included on the local election ballots. So to follow the Constitution, I want to say there is ugly stuff going on next door. There is actually people asking about the political views, which is completely unconstitutional because it's a local election. People are asked about their beliefs in some political party. That is not what's supposed to be done. The only reason we have nonpartisan local election, it's about the community and about the local issues, nothing to do with the national issues, the federal issues, and so on and so forth. So I am telling the citizens of Clayton, if you hear me, do not ask candidates about that, and don't put your opinions that because if you belong to a certain party, because I am assuming you belong to a certain party, you don't have my vote. This is pretty ugly and even not constitutional in California. This is these things that really grates me. And personal attacks on candidates are also unacceptable. We should be civil enough. And absolutely agree with Frank that this is not the issues that should be worried us, who is voting for whom. The only issue that should be worried us, where do the candidates stand on the issue in the local community? What do they think about what's going on in the community? And not asking about their party affiliations. This is not the way to do it. And this has never been the way to do it. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Irina. Our next speaker is Kim Lally. Oops, let me get you. There you go, Kim. And
can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
Well, thanks you guys very much. And I know that CW, I think you kind of addressed it in the beginning. I was very concerned about the protest Saturday night. My husband and I actually were downtown trying to have a nice, peaceful dinner for our 28th wedding anniversary. And it was not anything peaceful at all. It kind of concerns me. I think when I heard Fran speak that there wasn't anything that was, I don't know what the word was, but it wasn't peaceful at all. I was a part of or participated in the one in June when it was all out in the Grove Park, and that was extremely peaceful, and that would be what I would expect. But what I experienced and what I saw on Saturday night, these were kids. These were young punk kids that have not been raised to understand what respect and how you treat other people. I mean, to see these people be up in Ed Mores's face the way they were, to have them yelling in their megaphones that we were nothing but white privileged people that were enjoying our food while Black people are dying. That is not what I think we should allow to have happen in Clayton. And I did see our Clayton police do the best job they could, but I will be very honest with you, until I guess they were from Concord, the Concord police came around the corner from Village Market in their shields and stood the line on the main street. That's when things finally calmed down. Our own police could not have calmed the situation down by themselves. It was These were people that were just angry and fierce and had no respect for anything that was going on in a peaceful manner whatsoever. And I was under the impression, and like I said, CW clarified that, I was under the impression to have a protest, you had to apply for a permit. But now CW, you're saying you don't have to, but somehow we have to know that this is happening so our police can be notified, because when we walked into Moressi's that night for dinner, Ed immediately told us, I just want you to know there's a chance that the protesters are coming down here. And my husband and I didn't think anything of it because we had experienced what had transpired back in June. We had no idea that this is what we would be experiencing. And, you know, there was a family sitting next to us with 2 young kids that my husband literally had to go over and tell them it's okay, we're going to protect you, because they were so scared. It was the worst experience I've ever had living in a town like Clayton. And I just think that there's got to be a better way that we can get a handle on who these people are that want to come in and protest. I'm all for protesting if that's what you want to do, but what they did, there was no benefit. There was nothing that they did that got their point across, because they were fearing people, they were yelling at people, they were talking in people's faces, they were going and insulting families that were in the park. I mean, it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. Never would I think I would experience that in Clayton.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, our next speaker is Ernie de Trinidad, and would you please unmute? Can you unmute your computer? Ernie, you're on, if you can unmute.
Am I?
There you go.
Thank you. Mayor and City Council, thank you very much for the presentation on the COVID and the other reports. And to the candidates, to get to know you a little better is, you know, how we're going to make the decisions for our City Council. For me, the City Council needs to be diverse, needs to be inclusive, absolutely transparent on all of our issues. Housing, policing, economics, and of course, the racism, because racism does exist everywhere, including in our little town of Clayton. As a Latino and 20-year resident, I have experienced subtle and not so subtle racism. However, only 2 or 3 of the candidates address this in their websites and in their speeches and in their concerns, and that is disturbing, because you would think that all the council members would be aware and vocal and in touch with all of our issues here in town. Why are you not all on Clayton Speaks? Why are you not all in race relations and be a participant in this that concerns all of Clayton? Having said that, I hope to see you all on these forums, and I hope that you will address this issue. And housing has been an issue since I've been here in 20 years. It's an ongoing thing. It's not going away. It's just there. But these other issues are. Safety is an issue, and so is racism, whether you believe it or not. You cannot turn a blind eye. You cannot have a deaf ear to it just because you don't want it to be here. But it is here. And do yourself a favor and participate, all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernie. Our next speaker is someone on the phone with a phone number ending in 4356. So we're going to ask you to unmute yourself. Can you do that? There you are. You're ready to talk.
Yes, my name is Roberto Lopez, and I'm with Mount Diablo Soccer, which is the local soccer club here in Clayton and Concord. About a third of our kids are from Clayton, so we get a lot of participation from Clayton. I'm assistant coach admin at the moment. I used to be the assistant commissioner for competitive programs, and that's how I know Frank Gaviria. He's been our coach in our league for the last 3 to 4 years, even though her daughter is no longer of age to participate. So he's been helping our teams without having a kid on the teams. He's also been donating not only his time, but I know he's donated his planning commission check to MDSA, and he's helped several of our players that haven't been able to go to tournaments. He's been able to assist them. So that's all I wanted to say. I know him. I know he's running, and that's the kind of person that he is. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. The next speaker is Brad Talmadge, and we will ask you to unmute, Brad. There you go. You're all set.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. And, I've been a concerned citizen here in the last year, and I've been a resident of Clayton for 40 years, my parents longer. I know a lot of people in this town. And just in the last 6 or 7 months, I've been very concerned at some of the secret societies and Facebook pages and things that I'm seeing of some of the candidates on our panel and some of the city council members that they are a part of. And I'm not going to name any names, but what I would like is, if we're going to be open and transparent and honest, and you're going to represent us as a citizen of Clayton, I would hope you would denounce or remove yourself from these groups that seem to be wanting to target residents after meetings or harass them through different sites. I think this is a fantastic town. It's a great place to be, and I think there's a lot of opportunity that we can do things together and work to solve some of these issues. And I hope that the people that are running, and if you win, that we don't partake in these things. We're becoming a society where, individuals attack individuals, and I want to be able to say, let's be open and honest and talk and have a conversation, but not behind closed doors where members of those groups wanting to target other candidates, voters, and go after people's license plates after meetings and do things that are just outright disgusting. So I hope, the candidates that are running and who are on the city council now will denounce this stuff. And going forward, let's make Clayton great. We have issues and things that we can work on, and I think we can do that together without being behind closed doors. So I see a lot of transparency being thrown around and on signs and talk. So let's be transparent. Thank you, and I appreciate giving me an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Brad. All right. I do not see any other raised hands for public comments, so we will close the public. Oh, we do have one more. Dee, you got to get yourself up there faster. Dee Vieira.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
I am Dee Vieira, and I live in Dana Hills. I would like to use my time to talk a little bit about social media. I have been using social media for a long time. I've seen a lot of changes over the years. Social media has been around since the early 2000s. Who remembers MySpace, then Facebook? Everyone from teenagers to grandparents have figured out how to use Facebook. They've managed to make it so simple and easy to use that it reaches any demographic. It is a great way to connect with people you know and love, promote your business, reach your constituents, make new friends, and yes, join private groups where you have something in common with each other, anywhere from quilting to politics. Not everyone gets invited. Sorry, but you don't always get an invitation to these groups. This is entirely up to the administrators of these private groups. Nextdoor also has a join group feature, and it works like Facebook. Recently, in our local socials, we seem to have a quandary over transparency on the Facebook page, Save Clayton, and the other Facebook page, that's a private group called Clayton Progressives. In looking into Save Clayton, it is listed as an organization in one place, but then in looking at the page transparency, it is listed that Save Clayton has not completed its business verification process since May 2018. It appears that to have a business on Facebook, this verification process is required. So which is it? An organization, which also needs an authorization process, or is it a business? As for Clayton Progressives, a private group that shares things in common with its members, the identity of its administrator is transparent to its members. There is nothing illegal on owning a private Facebook group or being a member of a private Facebook group. On a side note, if you ask Jeff Wan, he would agree that the right to speak anonymously has a rich history in political and social discourse. It is a practice that has long-standing protections in the First Amendment. He noted that anonymity is a shield from the tyranny of the majority. So if you go by this, the Save Clayton platform can remain anonymous. However, if you go by Facebook, you need to complete the organization or business verification process. Thank you. That's all I have to share. Have a good night.
Thank you, Dee.
I'm flattered I got quoted. It's awesome.
All right, I have one more speaker, Rachel Levy, and we will ask you to unmute, Rachel. There you are. You're ready to speak. Rachel, go ahead. Rachel? Go ahead. You need to unmute, Rachel, on your end. You're still muted. Can you unmute yourself? There you go. You should be unmuted now. Try again.
Technology is awesome.
It is. It is. It's frustrating. We show you.
You watch the icon go back and forth. And
yeah, I know.
Just waiting.
I know. We show you as unmuted, Rachel. We're not touching anything on our end, so please try speaking. It may be that you are muted on your own end.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you. Sorry about that. I've done this before. I don't know what was going on. So good evening. This is Rachel Levy, and I've lived in Clayton for 12 years. I just wanted to comment on the secret society groups here in Clayton that Brad mentioned. I'd just like to share a little story. After President Trump was elected, I started a small Facebook group and added some local, like-minded friends. It was so nice to have a place to share and vent about politics without annoying our Facebook friends and family on our regular Facebook pages. My friends in the group added their friends, and the group grew pretty quickly. People have different ideas of what it means to be progressive, but when I named the group, my idea of progressive was a person who advocates towards progress pertaining towards social issues like more funding and equity in public education, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, racial justice, and environmental concerns. We are not a government agency or a public institution, and we are not obligated to be transparent or public. I thought it was really funny the other day when someone on Nextdoor, quote unquote, outed our group, because even though our settings are private, everyone should know that nothing on social media is really private. It seems really silly to devote so much energy towards talking about a private Facebook group of local residents. Our group does not tolerate bullying, trolling, or drama, unlike Claycord, Nextdoor, and Save Clayton. Thank you all for your time, and I hope I answered some of the questions about our very mysterious group that some of you seem to be so intrigued with.
Thank you, Rachel. All right, I have no more raised hands, so I'm going to close the public comment period, and we will go on with our agenda. The next item on our agenda is an action item, which I suspect all of our attendees would be interested in hearing about. It has to do with traffic calming and our speed survey options on Clayton Road, Eagle Peak Avenue, and Mount Air Parkway. And for this, we are going to go to our city engineer, Scott Allman, for a report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. Are you able to see the share screen?
We can.
Okay, great. So yeah, thank you for the introduction. That was great. We, last meeting on the August the 18th, we brought before you the engineering and traffic surveys for the city. And there were 4 street segments that the survey recommended, or actually would have required, that we raise the speed limits on. And those were not accepted. And you requested us to come back with options of what to do to help reduce speed and calm traffic on those 4 street segments, so that we could put out an education campaign, education, engineering, and enforcement campaign, the 3 E's of traffic engineering, and hopefully slow the traffic down on those 4 segments so that when they are surveyed again, there would not be a need to increase speed limits. Sorry for a second here, I'm in a technical difficulty. So the 4 segments that we're talking about are, 2 of them are on Clayton Road. One is Clayton Road from Washington to Mitchell Canyon. The second one goes from Mitchell Canyon to Oakhurst. So in this presentation, we've broken them apart to be consistent with the traffic engineering study, the traffic survey study. But in practicality, we're leaving them as one continuous segment because that's how it operates. The second and third are Mount Air Parkway. Mount Air Parkway is from Marsh Creek Road to the Mount Air Circle South intersection, which is there in Dana Hills, the intersection at the swim club. And then the third is Eagle Peak from Oakhurst Drive up to Keller Ridge. A couple of definitions that things you're gonna hear in this presentation. A road diet. A road diet it's what it sounds like. You're reducing the traveled space in a given street, vehicular travel space, and then dedicating that space to other uses, bicycles, parking, enhanced parking. And the goal of this road diet is to channelize the travelway so that it reduces speed by drivers being visually cued to be in a narrower space, and it does potentially cause slightly more traffic, which then again also slows the speeds down. Speed feedback sign is another, which we're all experiencing. We know it. That is, see them daily on Ignacio Valley Road, where you get a feedback of your actual speed versus the speed limit. And then, of course, the static speed limit sign is just a speed limit sign which portrays to you what the speed limit on that street is. So, talking about each of these individually and the recommendations that I think would be the appropriate ones to look at. On Eagle Peak, between Oakhurst and Keller Ridge, would propose or suggest that a road diet be implemented to increase, road diet would be implemented. It would involve a center median. It would involve wider bike lane widths and that would then channelize these lanes down to where it would be one distinct lane in each direction, and they would be narrower, not anywhere near being dangerous, narrow, but it would just make the street seem tighter, and that's kind of that visual cue is what tends to decrease speed with drivers. If there's wide open spaces and there's plenty of places to go, speeds increase. If you channelize them down, speeds decrease. Now, in this segment of street, there's also no speed limit signs. So we propose to put 4 static speed limit signs in to alert the public to what the speed limit is. And then also would propose or suggest installation of a feedback sign that would be near the base of the hill as you approach the intersection with Oakhurst, the easterly intersection with Oakhurst, so that if people do descend that hill, they get a feel for what their actual speed is as they're going down the hill. This is just a visual map view of it, and as you can see, as you approach Oakhurst Drive at the bottom of the picture, it does have a divided median. So that would be able to be extended up the hill via paint, not with a raised median, but you'd be able to extend that up using traffic paint and an appropriate application of that, so that it would increase the distance of that of the median and segregate the vehicles from each other. Estimated costs, the road diet. We would propose that to remove all of the striping that's there and then seal the street and then replace the striping. It would be approximately $40,000 worth of street work. 4 speed limit signs, they're about $300 a piece installed, so $1,200 for that, and the speed feedback sign is roughly $5,000 each. So $46,200 is the estimate for that street segment. Then there's the first Clayton Road segment, which would be between Washington Boulevard and Mitchell Canyon Road. So either the very entry to the city or the very exit from the city, depending on whether you're eastbound or westbound. The road diet would be the same on both sides. Proposal would be to narrow both lanes and incrementally. That would, again, channelize the travelway, and it would allow for a widened bicycle lane at the curb, which would also be beneficial for bicyclist traffic and such, and would increase the viability of the bike lanes there. The other the other piece of this, which I should have mentioned on the previous street, but this would be to, as I'd noted previously in a council weekly report, that we're changing from raised pavement markers, RPMs, box dots, there's many different names to call them, to striping, thermoplastic striping. That also will help enhance the visual cues of the lanes and defining the lanes, and that will be beneficial to make them stand out. So in addition to that, we would propose to put 2 feedback signs, one at the curb for the number 2 lane, one in the median for the number 1 lane, because on a 2-lane road, this feedback sign can be very, confusing to the drivers because you can't tell which lane it's looking at necessarily. So if you put one on either side, it gives immediate feedback to drivers in the specific lane. It gives them better information, better feedback about their speed. And then the other option or the other proposal would be that Clayton Road has enough signals that we could look at timing the signals to the speed limit. This then you would advertise on street signs that would say this signals are timed to 40 miles an hour, which is the speed limit. Motorists who decide to go faster than that would end up stopping at a signal and waiting because they would be out of sync with the green cycle of each signal. So this also can be an enhancement to people who would travel the speed limit and a bit of a deterrent to those who might continue to try to speed. So the costs here, the road diet portion of it, since we would only be removing minimal striping and replacing it, we would not propose to treat the street with a seal coat of any kind. So that would, the striping removal and replacement is estimated at $15,000. The 2 feedback speed signs are $5,000 a piece for $10,000, and a total then for this segment of $25,000. Between Mitchell Canyon Road and Oakhurst Drive, very much the same approach. Road diet to narrow the travel lanes and widen the bike lanes. 2 additional speed feedback signs eastbound. And in the previous segment, they were eastbound as well and proposed to be at the entrance to the city. So people coming across the intersection with Ignacio Valley Road, if they gun it through that signal, and if they make it through the signal at Washington, they would then get feedback of if they were had it gone over the speed limit to make through the signals, and we didn't, we're trying to give them feedback as they enter the city. The next place then would be that we would propose between Mitchell Canyon and the elementary school to give additional feedback as they enter into the downtown area. Again, restripe the lanes with thermoplastic and reflective markers so that it enhances the visual cues for the drivers. And then the school zone pictured here with the speed limit of 25 miles an hour when the children are present would remain in effect, so that would slow the speed in this area during the day when the children, students are present. This proposed cost $10,000 to do the striping renewal, 2 more feedback signs, $10,000 for that, for a total proposed $20,000. The last segment would be Mount Air Parkway between Marsh Creek and Mount Air Circle South. This is a fairly wide street. It's got 2 lanes, not well defined as far as street lanes. Again, here a proposal for a road diet, and if I'd like, well, I'll go back to it. I would like to go back to the definition in a moment and show you the contrasting pictures of those 2 streets, because it's very appropriate to Mount Air Parkway. This road diet would add a double left turn center median lane. It would increase the size of the bike lane widths and would enhance the parking, and then would create 1 lane in each direction, channelized, and would be done with bold thermoplastic striping so that it would stand out and give visual cues. There's 1 speed limit sign in this segment of the street. We would like to add 3 additional, so there would be 2 in each direction, and then propose to install a speed feedback sign near the base of the hill where you are approaching the intersection with Marsh Creek Road, so that as vehicles and drivers descend the hill, they get a feedback of what their actual speed is on that street. This is a proposed pictorial of what we're talking about: 2-way left turn median, the single lane in each direction, a wide or ample bike lane in each direction, and ample parking lane at each direction at the curb. This is a little bit more expensive. The road diet portion of it includes a pavement maintenance treatment. It would it's proposed at, estimated at $45,000. The 3 speed limit signs are $900, 3 at $300, and the feedback sign at $5,000 for a proposed budget of $50,900. So the total cost of all of these together, I also had 3 additional speed limit signs proposed for other areas in this, in this if we needed them. There were some areas where we could have potentially put in another static sign So I wanted to include those in the budget. So if everything were done all together, it would be $143,000 to do this work. Here's a speed feedback sign that we are familiar with. Other options that are available, but we're not recommending them for several different reasons. New traffic signals, just basically a cost. They're very costly, somewhere between $400,000 and $750,000, depending on the complexity of the intersection and how many different arms and such that are required to cover all the lanes. The other is the potential for stop signs to be placed. If they're unwarranted stop signs, they don't meet the warrants of the traffic volumes and such, they become a potential liability to the city, because if they're ignored and then there's an accident that occurs, that does come back to the city as to, why did you install an unwarranted stop sign. And the third was a rumble strip, which is a strip that crosses the street, multiple of them in sets, and as the cars roll over them, you get a auditory cue of how fast you're going based on the frequency of the rumble. They're a good approach in some areas, but they are very loud and are typically requested to be removed almost as fast as they're requested to be installed, because the neighbors realize how loud they are, and you can't turn them off at night. If you have a car that goes down the street at midnight, you get the rumble, and it becomes usually a fairly large complaint by the neighbors about that noise. I'm happy to entertain questions, and I'll do my best to answer them, and hopefully it facilitates a discussion at the City Council level, and that you would give us feedback and direction.
Okay, thank you very much, Scott. If you can unshare your screen so we can see each other, that's helpful. Thank you. Okay, questions of Scott by council members.
Wow, certainly gave us a lot to think about. I guess I have more of a question for the chief, I guess, than Scott with regard to Eagle Peak. Is that okay to ask now, or should I wait?
Absolutely.
So on Eagle Peak, what are we giving a lot of tickets away on Eagle Peak, or is there accidents? And what is the situation on Eagle Peak?
Not many of either.
Not many of either. So looking at spending the money on Eagle Peak may not be the best idea. I know we're talking about questions now, so I'm going to wait so that I can get into the comment section.
Yeah, one comment, and I think Scott maybe can revisit this. I don't believe that Eagle Peak has many speed limit signs, and so initially when the presentation was given, it was thought that, because people don't know what the speed limit is, that's probably why they're going fast. So maybe that's a starting point, at least for that area, is to put more speed limit signs so people can actually see what the speed limit is.
Sure.
So education would be helpful there.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that is the first step towards education. And installing the 4 speed limit signs, that's a fairly quick and fairly inexpensive message to help provide to motorists there. So I would absolutely agree.
So maybe what you're suggesting, just to be clear, Scott, would be maybe first start with the static speed limit signs, and then if we think it's needed, add later the feedback sign?
That's definitely a possibility, yes. If the static signs were successful and did the job, then yeah, we would be able to just stop with that, and if not, then take the next step, as it's necessary to provide this education to the motorists.
Go ahead, CW.
Okay, so but where do we start by posting the signs there? Are we starting with the current speed limit? Are we looking to change the speed limit? Where, if we're going to post signs, where do we start? The current speed limit. Okay.
Yeah.
The rest I don't have any questions right now per se. I'm going to wait for comment time. Sorry.
Okay. And just to follow up, Scott, on that, for that segment on Eagle Peak, because that is a pretty steep downhill with a bit of a curve at the bottom as you're approaching the stoplight at Oakhurst Drive, would you also potentially put a stop ahead? I mean, everybody that lives up there knows about it, but there may well be folks who are visitors or something like that that are not as aware. I don't know whether that makes any difference or not.
It certainly would be appropriate to have the the appropriate approach signs there if they are not. And honestly, I don't remember, Mayor. I've driven that thing so many times that I don't even know I can't even remember. But it would be easy to find out. And if there was an approach sign missing, absolutely, we would, yes, install it.
Okay.
Sorry, just one more quick question for Scott. When you talk about 4 signs on Eagle Peak, are you talking about 4 signs on one side or 2 and 2?
I would be 2 and 2 would be the preference. Yeah, that's preference.
I think most of us know that some people speed going downhill and a lot of people speed going uphill, which is rather surprising and counterintuitive, but it's true. They gun it going up the hill. So, okay, other questions? Jeff?
Am I on?
Yep, you're on.
All right, cool. On the presentation for the Clayton Road sections, it included an estimate of cost for 2 of the items that were suggested, but not the third. Is there no cost associated with timing of the light change?
It's very minimal. It's a couple of hours of a technician's time. I would say it's less than $1,000.
Okay, so it's incidental, or it's small enough. And then on that section of Clayton Road, I think from Washington to, let's say, Regency, I think I'm trying to remember. I think there's 10 traffic lights from the length of that street, if you just count all one direction.
Okay.
Is that 10 or 10 intersections with lights? Maybe that's a better way to say it. Is that your recollection?
Let me just look real quick.
I think it's only 7. I think it's only 7.
I'm counting the trail too.
All right.
At Black Diamond. There's, in front of St. Bonaventure, there's 2. I'm going all the way to Regency.
Well, there's Washington, there's St. Bonnie's, there's
No, you skip Safeway.
El Camino.
Oh wait, that's Washington.
No, that's Washington.
Yeah. Safeway is at Washington. So then there's,
well, whatever it is,
yeah,
we could establish the number. Right. I'm curious about what are the contours of our ability to adjust the timing of the lights. Are we allowed to, if the speed limit is, let's say, 40 miles an hour, are we allowed to time them at 35?
I'm going to defer to Lynn on that because can you physically do it? Yes, you can physically do it, but I don't know about the legality or the liability of that if you would be causing an issue where people, especially if they realized that they were timed low. I don't know. That's a great question, and I honestly don't know. I don't know if Lynn's still on or not.
Yep, I'm here.
She's on.
Okay.
I see your name.
Great. Can you bail me out here, please?
Okay, I'm going to get technical on you here. I apologize. So when you set traffic signal timing, you try and set it so that with the detection you have in the street, that as few cars as possible get caught in what is called the dilemma zone. And the dilemma zone is where you are either going to run the red light or you're going to slam on the brakes and put your passenger through the windshield. So you try and time your signals a little bit so that there's some finesse in the timing so that you do not have the situation. as soon as you start putting interconnect systems in place, progression timing, you're making it where more people are just, we're going to cut off the timing and it's going to turn red when we want it to turn off, and you're going to catch more people in the dilemma zone. So if you put it at 35, you're going to catch more people in a really bad situation, which is going to lead to accidents. So it's legally, can we do it? Yes, we can. Would I recommend it? Absolutely not.
Okay, that's great. Then the next question is the delay from when a light, sorry, that's the wrong way to say it. The length of time that a light stays red and when it turns and all that, what's our latitude in adjusting that as well?
The only absolute requirement we have is on the yellow time, and generally the
longer yellows is safer, right?
Well, you need to do it based on the speed of traffic. So if you have a 25-mile-an-hour street, if you have a 6-second yellow time, people are going to be running the yellow right and left because they know it's too long. But if you have a 45-mile-an-hour street, you want it to be, I think the requirement is about 4.5 seconds. So you need to do it appropriate for your approach.
Okay, so that's the yellow time distance. The red and green is discretionary?
So after the yellow, there is usually a standard, what they call an all red cycle, which is how long your light stays red before the next direction gets a green light, and that's usually about 1 second. It's not an absolute requirement, but I would think if you had, no all red time, there might be some liability in that.
Yeah, I think there's some places in San Francisco that are like that. Okay, so it seems, if I'm understanding you correctly, if our normal cycle time on a red light is currently 1.5 minutes, let's say, if we put that to 3 minutes, that would be permissible?
So right now we do not have a background cycle length on the lights. So if there's a lot of cross traffic, the cycle will be longer. If there's hardly any, it will be shorter. So it will vary depending on the how much traffic is on the side street. So if there's 2 cars on the side street, the light's going to turn green and stay green on the side street about 5 seconds. If there's 10 cars, it's going to be significantly more than that. So how long it takes from when you get the green to when you get the next green will vary based on the conflicting traffic.
Yeah, I get that part. That wasn't really my question, though. My question is, can we make it independent of the side traffic? In other words, can we force the time to last longer if we so choose?
You will. We will be getting complaints that the light is stuck on red. So.
Okay, but that would be permissible.
Yeah, it's a fine line of what you can do before you start getting a lot of complaints from the drivers.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, Tia?
Yeah, so I have, so I think some of these measures seem, fairly low cost, seem like sort of no-brainers, like timing some of the signals seems like an easy thing to do. I think, so I think there's some stuff that are easy to do. What I'm a little bit more concerned about is the road diet approaches, which reduce the number of traffic lanes. And in part, I'm concerned that, that will absolutely be felt and by a lot of residents. And I'm not 100% sure that people are paying attention that this kind of change would happen out of this meeting. So I guess I'm wondering, have we done, I know we had a meeting last time where we talked a little bit about that. Obviously the staff report is out, but other than publishing it on our agenda, have we done any other outreach to Dana Hills or people in on top of Eagle Peak or any other area impacted?
At this point, the answer would be no, because unless the council is interested in pursuing this as an idea, we weren't going to raise a red flag, so to speak. But if you're interested in pursuing it, then we would be able to reach out and start that process, but we would want to do it with your backing in your direction instead of just doing it on our own. So a little bit of chicken and egg, I think, of,
Okay.
we want to know the feedback, but we also don't want to, send out a false piece of information.
Yeah. No, and I think Julie mentioned last time that there had been some prior proposal years ago to do something in Dana Hills, and actually for other reasons, I was looking through old pioneers, and I actually found that article just by coincidence. It was like 2004, and it seemed like residents at the time in Dana Hills were very much opposed to that type of change on that road. So I think we definitely, from my perspective, I think those road diet changes are not only fairly costly, but I think they definitely impact our residents. So I'm not comfortable, at least today, to go that route unless we reach out to more residents. But the other question I had about the road diet measures is one potential consequence from those additional queuing that could result in the other crossroads, since we reduce the traffic from 2 lanes to 1 lane in each direction?
Yes, it could result in additional queuing at, most likely it would be at peak hours because the traffic volumes there are fairly low. And that's part of what leads to the higher speeds is the low traffic volumes, where it's a lot of times single vehicles to get, by themselves. It's free flow, and that does increase the speed. So yes, it could lead to potential queuing, and actually that's one of the measures that you use as a traffic calming is to, if you slow the traffic down and they queue up, then they slow themselves down as well.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jim, did you have any question?
I do, and I'm just trying to frame it. It's relative to the restriping of Clayton Road, and I'm not sure if that's related to this. When you do that restriping, that it creates the noise. Is that what you were talking about, Scott? Because I out on Marsh Creek, heading out towards Morgan Territory, there are some of those stripings that do cause the noise.
Yeah, those rumble strips rumble
strips.
That's a different approach than the road diet, but they use some of the same materials. They can create a rumble strip out of those raised pavement marker dots, and they'll do that at times. But they are crossing the traffic 90 degrees to the flow of traffic, so it creates the bump under the tire.
Right.
Yeah, this would be different. The road diet the road diet for Clayton Road would just narrow the lanes and would remove the raised pavement markers in the center and replace them with thermoplastic striping, so that it's bolder and gives a much more visible cue to the driver about where the center line is.
Right, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One other question.
Go ahead.
On the restriping option for Clayton Road, there's no cost associated with that item either. There's 4 bullets and 2 bullets for cost on the presentation. Is there an estimate on that item as well?
Yeah, the cost on let me get back to it here. So I
it's slide 8 of 17.
Right. Now, the road diet, there was a $15,000 price for the road diet for the restriping piece, and then 2 speed feedback signs at $10,000 a piece for the 2.
Okay, so on slide 8, it lists 2 bullets, 15,000 and 10,000. 15 is the road diet, 10 is the feedback signs. But on the slide prior, on slide 7, it lists 4 items: road diet, feedback signs, restripe, and time signals. We already talked about the time signals, but not the restriping. Is that included within the 15,000 for road diet?
No.
I think the restriping is going to be done anyway, isn't it, with the replacement of the box dots?
It would be, but okay. So this is the portion between Washington and Washington and Mitchell Canyon, and that was $15,000 for the restriping.
Okay.
And then Mitch,
can you go back one slide? Go back to slide 7. There's 4 items here.
Right.
And slide 8, there's two items with cost.
Below. The road diet is all of those below that bullet.
Well, the road diet is narrowing the lanes, and that is done by bullet 3.
Right.
Because instead of putting the
Okay,
dots
so that's
back,
inclusive.
those two
Okay,
are
so bullet 1 is
together.
inclusive. Okay,
Correct.
that was my question.
1 and 3 go together. Number 2 is the $10,000, and then this was, I didn't put a dollar amount to it because I think it's fairly negligible.
Okay, that was the part that was unclear. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Well, then let's go to public comment. So far, we have one attendee who would like to speak, and that is Scott Collier. Scott, I'm going to ask you to unmute. There you are. Go ahead and speak. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me, Council?
Yes.
Yes, great, thank you. My name is Scott Collier, and I am a Clayton resident. I am not a resident of the Dana Hills development, but I'm kind of curious to know a couple of things. With the proposed road diet on Mount Air Parkway, going from a 2-lane to 1, what would be the residents' impact? And I know that Councilmember Catalano kind of raised that same issue. I echo the same concerns. We don't want the residents to be unduly impacted by narrowing of the roadways. But one thing that was not included in the presentation is a contrast between what is today versus what is proposed. It would be nice to see a contrast or kind of a layover of the parking and the bike lanes and the 1-lane or 2-lane or whatever the proposal is. It would be nice to see what that would be as a potential resident of that area. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. And the next speaker is Kathy Little, or someone in Kathy Little's family. Okay. Kathy is, come on, I got to get you up there. Allow to talk. There you go. You can unmute yourself, Kathy, or whoever is Kathy Little and family. I don't want to offend anyone. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
You're
It's Harry Little. Hi, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, we can.
Hi. Great, thank you. Just a couple, maybe 3 points to make for you as you consider this. The first is we're looking at some expense, $143,000 change, whatever that is. There's probably an opportunity with the public to say, hey, look, this is the cost of your tax dollars for speeding through your neighborhoods. We could pay for a law enforcement officer to just write tickets, and that's one way to do it. Or we could just spend money on signs that you're going to ignore anyway. Or we could choke up your roads with, road diets. I think that might be interesting for some people to try to self-enforce. So that's one comment might be worth pursuing somehow. Second comment, I live up above Eagle Peak, and on the uphill ride from Oakhurst, very wide, the bicycle lanes are very narrow, and what we find is people blow up there around 45 miles an hour, and they hug the bike lane strip because at just over the peak at Miwok, which is a blind hill, just over the peak is a right turn lane so they can get into Keller Ridge. So they're blasting up the street. You can't see them because of the hedges if you're coming off of Miwok, right? And they can't see anybody else because they're going too fast. It's a blind hill. And they're allowed to hug the corner or the curb because the bike lane is about, 2-3 feet wide maybe. So an opportunity there in your restriping plan when you get to that is maybe make that an extra wide bike lane so that they feel like they have to be out from the curb a little bit, and they'll be more visible to us even if they are speeding. I totally recommend the street signs because nobody knows what the posted limit is, even though I think probably most people are going to ignore them anyway. Last comment, as you talk about narrowing lanes on Clayton Road, there's a lot of semi-traffic coming off of Mitchell, right? So I think your narrowing of the lanes might be, a little bit of a safety concern, given that you got a lot of semi-traffic up and down there. So just sort of consider that as you consider your road diet. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Some very good points. One more speaker, Dee Vieira.
Good evening, Council. Just a quick question. I had to walk away, so I'm not sure if I missed something here, but has anyone in the Council reached out to those of us that live in Dana Hills regarding these road changes? And after looking at the illustrations too, I would be a little concerned about the bike lane and the parking, just because it made me remember of a road accident I had where I was on a bike and somebody opened their parked car door. That always concerns me, but I don't know how this would all work out if it actually is in the best interest of everybody here in Dana Hills, but at the very least, I think you should get their input on it if that's possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee. That actually was something we did discuss, and the answer would be if the council thinks it's worth pursuing, we would definitely reach out to the residents in Dana Hills through the homeowners association, any of these areas where we would be making that kind of change. We would definitely be engaging in conversation with that neighborhood.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, but didn't some of this start because we were contacted by residents of Dana Hills?
To some extent, yes. Many of the folks that live on that lower section of Mount Air Parkway rather consistently complain about the speed of traffic going by in front of their homes. So it's kind of a push-pull. A lot of the folks further up the hill don't want to have to slow down, but the folks who actually live there are concerned about the speeds. It's the same situation as we had about 16 years ago when we last looked at this potential option. And the majority of the Dana Hills folks said absolutely no way. Did it slow down traffic? Not appreciably. And so I think some of the suggestions tonight to make a better effort at educating folks is a great idea. However, I believe the chief told us last time, and Chief, you can correct me if I get the number wrong, but if I remember correctly, you said about 60% of the people ticketed for going too fast through town don't live here, and they wouldn't hear that education about what we might do if we were to enforce some of these other measures. Now, obviously, the neighborhood issues are different, but certainly for Clayton Road, a lot of that traffic is through traffic from out of town. Chief,
I think it was three. I think it was three quarters.
Yeah, three quarters.
Okay, it was even more.
Yeah, it was higher.
Yeah, so even less effective would that outreach be, because they frankly wouldn't care because they're just flying through. But for the neighborhood issues, I think that bears some outreach and some discussion to see if that's valid. Yes, it would take a little effort on the part of staff and us to reach out to at least the two neighborhoods, the Eagle Peak neighborhood and the Dana Hills neighborhood, to see what kind of reaction they have. It may be that things have changed. It may be that we can explain it in a way that really works. There are some areas in Central County where cities have done this kind of road diet, and they have worked extremely well. They have really become much more friendly to the folks who live there. And so it would be worth maybe bringing in some of the folks from those neighborhoods to talk about the before and after and what their experiences were. Geary Road was one of those that we did that on in Pleasant Hill, Walnut Creek. It was a joint venture between those two cities, and it worked extremely well. So, Jeff, you had your hand up or wanted to speak, I think. Your light went on. Yep. Your box lit up, so I thought maybe you were.
Are we done? Are we done with public comment?
Yes, we are done with public comment. There are no more hands.
All right, just making sure. I'm looking through the areas. I think the suggestion for Eagle Peak to Keller to start incrementally with the speed limit signs is the way to go. I don't think there's any addresses that front that section, if I recall, except Keno's property. Right. But other than that, I don't think there's any addresses that front that section. So I think an incremental approach there is probably a prudent course of action. That's what I would go for. For the areas in Dana Hills, it's a pretty big change for them, and I agree. I think we talked about this last time. If the residents want it, then I'd be cool with that. But I think they need to take some positive steps to assert that they want it. And I would feel comfortable directing staff to inquire and reach out through the HOA and other means. I think that'd be a good idea for that piece. I'm trying to think, was there other suggestions on that one? So the suggestion there was, let's see, road diet, speed limit signs, and feedback signs. So on there, I also think speed limit signs could be useful, although I think most residents probably know the speed limit because it's posted at the entrance. I mean, I always knew that. I used to live there, so Marsh Creek was 35. You go to Dana Hills, it went to 30, and then I turned into my street, it went to 25. So 5 step down every time. But I think a speed limit sign is a pretty incremental thing. Some people, it may help some people, I'm not sure. But before anything more significant happens, I would want to get the neighborhood to positively assert that that's what they actually want. Clayton Road's a little different. Clayton Road, I want to go nuts. This is the place that causes the most problems. East County and others will use Clayton Road as a thoroughfare to cut through Clayton to avoid the traffic on Highway 4. The only way that we're going to reduce that is by de-incentivizing Clayton Road to be used from people out, from East County. And the more we can reduce traffic that way, the less the speeds will be. As we said, the evidence shows that the vast majority of people that are ticketed for exceeding the speed limit don't live in town. So the way to reduce that is to disincentivize them from driving through town. Based on the commentary about the lights, I think when we look at this, I'm trying to pull up. But looking at this, the road diets are expensive. Feedback signs they're okay. They need maintenance and they're fine. Like we have 2 of them right now on Clayton Road by the school, but really those are all things that we are essentially asking people to comply. We ask them to follow the speed limit and we ask them to drive. When we put in the street light, or when you change the timing of the lights to force them to slow down, you will get compliance automatically. And I would want to be more aggressive in utilizing the tools that we already have at a cost that's not very high to reduce the flow of traffic through town, especially at Regency, because if you do it at Regency, the only people affected are the people coming from East County or leaving Clayton through to get to East County, and me who lives past there. But if you use that light and make it incredibly burdensome, then you're going to make people not want to come here just to drive through. And then you could hit every single other light on the way. Maybe we can time it to the speed limit as well. But if we make a couple at the entrance and the exits, make that red light like 5 minutes, maybe not 5 minutes, but pretty long, and just really hammer down on the incentive to come through, that will reduce traffic for everyone who lives in town. It'll improve the quality of life for everyone who lives in town. It'll reduce the speed, and it's just better. It doesn't affect our citizens, except me who lives past it, and my neighbors. So that's what I would want to do. And the degree of which we execute on that, you know, we can hammer out the details. But conceptually, I think that would be a good use of, you know, it's not a huge use of resources, and it has a big impact.
So if I understand correctly, you're basically saying let's make that light at Regency be a meter for East County.
Let's do like they do at Oak Grove and Unetted, the one that you have to wait 6 lights to get through. Thank you, Walnut Creek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it works for Walnut Creek because once you clear that, you pretty much sit
Exactly. It helps everyone in Walnut Creek, and it hoses the rest of us. It makes you not want to go there. It's perfect. It does exactly what they intended it to do.
And once you get past that light, you travel pretty quickly through the rest of town.
Yeah. And so you make the rest of town all timed, and you make the entrance maybe Regency and Washington, both sides.
Washington will back up into Ignacio, though. That's a problem already. We already have a problem with people stopping in the intersection because they can't clear it.
Well, then they'll get tickets.
Okay, I don't want to be the officer out there at rush hour trying to enforce that one. Other comments from other council members? Go to CW first.
Okay, so I'll agree with Jeff. I like this whole plan. I have a problem with any kind of road diet on Clayton Road. I think that'll just be a detriment to our own people as far as, you know, making that road any smaller than it is. I agree that the people coming from the east, coming up to Regency, I mean, that's a huge problem. And they're coming down to the school and down to Peacock Creek. I mean, that's all very fast there. So timing that out would be preferable. And I think looks like the least expensive way to go, certainly. I still don't understand why it is that Ignacio Valley Road can be 40 in some spots and 45 in others, and you have to raise Clayton Road to, you know, astronomical speed limits. I don't get that. But nevertheless, as far as the signs on Eagle Peak, I agree that most people probably know, but it would be at least good to post something there. And let's see, what else? I think that, yeah, that's it. So I'm good with that.
So it sounds like we're talking about a minimalist beginning and trying to.
I don't see how we can. You know, we have to involve the people at Mount Air. We have to involve the people at in Eagle Peak if that's necessary. Certainly in Mount Air. I mean, you know, we've had conflicting reports even here with public comment as to whether or not people want that road diet or not. And it's been 16 years. You might as well ask them. You know, certainly that they're going to be the ones affected. But Clayton Road affects us all, I think, and if 75% of the people coming through are getting tickets from East County or whatever, I think that's the burden. We have to put that on them.
Okay, Julia.
So very similar comment. So I'm definitely a no on the road diets at this point. I think it has other impacts. I think it's a huge change. So I don't want to study the road diet at this time. I'd want to see what we can accomplish with the other things. The only thing I'd like to do with the road diet with respect to Dana Hills is for staff to contact the HOA and at least put a message in that the city is looking at having to potentially raise the speed limit on Mountaineer Parkway unless the speeds reduce on their own. In other words, provide that communication that we're potentially looking at having to spend a lot of money on the road diet or having to do the road diet or to do something else or to raise the speed limit. So, you know, I think most of the people who travel on Mountaineer are people who live in Dana Hills. So I think we can be fairly effective by staff communicating through the HOA that, you know, folks, please slow down a little bit on Mountaineer Parkway. Then in terms of the other measures, the Eagle Peak, I fully agree. Adding the speed sign limits is a good idea, and you know, hopefully that will have some impact. In terms of Clayton Road, On the timing of the signaling overall, I do think it's a good idea to do. And the other positive impact is that, you know, when you're at Clayton Road and Regency, that is one of the crossing points for school kids at IBLOV Middle School. Obviously, kids aren't in session right now, but once we can return to normal conditions, you have a lot of kids who go to Regency Meadow, Regency Woods, and some of the other neighborhoods nearby who use Regency to cross Clayton Road. So the other idea, if we can get people to stop by, you know, drive slower at that section of Clayton Road through timing of the signal, I think that there's an added benefit to our kids too. And then, so kind of stepping back, so definitely in favor of those things and would want to do all of those things first. But I think that the main thing where we're doing this is we're trying to avoid having to raise the speed limit on these roads. So one of the things we talked about is having to survey again. So hopefully we can maybe take these measures, some of these measures first, set up a survey, to redo the survey, which I'm supportive of. But when we do decide to do the surveying again, I would love for the staff to come back to the council, whether it's at an informational report during the beginning of the meeting or otherwise, but to let us know kind of what the timing of the surveying looks like, so that then all of us can also help educate our citizens that, you know, we're going to be surveying the streets, please slow down. So I just want that to be very transparent and people to have that information available.
We're not allowed to tell them exactly when that survey would be done. That would be not legal, but
and that's fine.
They say over this period of next few weeks, we will be doing it at some time without you knowing any more than that. And
exactly when is a matter of discretion, really. We're not going to tell them on, Greenwich Mean Time down to the second, but, exact is a term of art.
Would that be a radar study this time, or would we be doing a video study again?
I would propose a radar study.
I think that would be wise.
One other comment on the lights. Are we allowed to make the default green north-south on Clayton Road, Marsh Creek and Clayton, rather than east-west? In other words, if there's no cars coming, the light is green to go east-west, right? If there's no one on the road, the light stays green, going east-west rather than north-south. Am I making sense here?
To some extent, although there is a minimal timing, I think, in there anyway, because I have observed times when there is absolutely nobody out there and the light still changes.
Okay, but I think that for the most part there is a default, right? Like it's there's a predilection for through traffic, right? Can we flip that?
Yes. Well, physically we absolutely can, and we can also have it where it rests in red, all directions.
Yeah.
I would like to do that.
Which would be the most inconvenient for you, Jeff?
Well, I live just past that light, so, this is going to negatively impact me, but I think it's better for overall traffic in town. And over time, as drivers get the message that this is a terrible way to commute and never come through this way just to commute, it'll ease up. So
we still have to balance the people coming through for our downtown businesses, right?
You do, but I don't think they're coming at 7 a.m. from East County. Like I see the 1,000 cars that pass in front of, on the street.
I agree.
It's a steady stream every morning and every afternoon going the other way. Steady stream.
Our market study said that people wouldn't stop in downtown. They would keep on going through anyway when we were trying to get businesses to locate in downtown. They said that commute traffic is not going to stop. So
if we put a Dunkin' Donuts downtown.
Anyway, I actually had a question.
If you put a Dunkin', I will eat there.
I had a question, Scott and Lynn, and it was raised by one of our speakers, and that's about Eagle Peak. Even if we didn't do the full road diet to put in a striped median, would it be helpful, safety-wise, to make that bike lane a bit wider? We've certainly got tons of pavement out there where we could do that. Even leaving the rest of the road alone, would that be a good idea?
I would say yes. I mean, that's basically, that's half of the road diet right there, because you widen the bike lane to give it more, you give ample space for bike riders, and that accomplishes the reduction in lane on that side of the lane.
And if that helps make it more visible from the side entry, because they're absolutely right. That's a blind corner up there.
Yep.
The other thing that's just kind of coming into vogue in traffic engineering is what's called separated bike lanes, which between the travel lane of the cars and the bike lane, you have a little area 2 or 3, maybe 4 feet wide that's hatched out. So it separates the road, the vehicle travel from the bike travel.
Right. That's not inexpensive to stripe in, though.
However many you want to have as the crosshatches, that will get it more expensive, and there's a lot of leeway on that. So it probably would be in the, I'm guessing, $8,000 to $10,000 range.
Yeah, I'd love to have staff come back, given our feedback, and come back and give us a closer proposal on the kind of money that we're talking about, because we got to figure out where this comes from. We don't have this in the budget right now. And because we also need to reach out to these other 2 neighborhoods and be really transparent with them and let them know what we're thinking, I really do want to hear from Dana Hills again. It's been 16 years since we talked about this the last time. You know, they may hate it, they might not. It just depends. So I think it's worth at least reaching out to the homeowners association and giving them some time to talk to their folks and get some information out there. But I'd like to know what the cost is we're looking for in the budget, so Fran can tell us whether there's some place we can steal this from.
So can we maybe we can take 3 action items then. I think we all agree on the speed limit signs on Eagle Peak. So I'm comfortable. Yeah, I think we're comfortable. Wait, actually, Jim, I don't think you've had a chance. Sorry.
I know I've been overwhelmed with all of the discussion from my colleagues, but I generally agree with your position and concur with your recommendations, Jeff. The only thing I feel some concern or caution about is too extended amount of time for a red light. I have seen on many occasions, if it gets extended too long or if there's a malfunction, they'll look both ways and they run it. So then what are you going to do? Have more police out there to cite them for running the red light?
Yeah, it's a fine line. It's
right.
a fine line.
So I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know what the magic timing is on that. So I leave that to the experts.
Yeah, there's probably a spectrum there, but in terms of giving direction to the staff, I think we should take a couple action items now so that they can have clear direction from all of us. I think we all agree on the speed limit signs at Eagle Peak, the 4 signs. I think that's right. That's pretty good. I think we all agree on asking staff to reach out to the Dana Hills HOA and making those communications about potential for increased speed and asking residents to slow down and informal polling them about how they would feel about the road diet, and then we can maybe ask a representative to come back and speak to it at a later time. But I think we can ask staff to do that now as a second action item. And then I think as a third action item we can take to, without anything too draconian, I think we all agree that we want to time the lights to at least to the current speed limit. That seems pretty innocuous, and it's both helping the right way and harming the right way too. So that's good. And then the other aspects, we can take that either at, as we get more information at a later meeting, when we come back with the HOA stuff and the other items on like costs for the bike lane that you said, which I think is also a good idea. But at least that's some immediate action now. And I would feel comfortable doing that if if we're all open to that.
And one clarification, when we talk about timing the lights, especially when we're looking at sort of the Regency and Clayton Road intersection. So, I get it, you're causing a backup on the east side, but aren't the lights timed in both directions? So aren't we also causing a backup in front of our Diablo View Middle School, potentially?
Well, I think if we start with timing to the actual speed limit now, like nothing like nothing that would change the flow to slow it down more than what the current speed limit is. I think that is like the starting point. And then, because we should encourage people to drive the speed limit anyways, and so that does that. It kind of forces that.
I agree, but I don't think we want to result in queuing up on the city side of Regency either, which is, like I said, right in front of the school.
I mean, the alternative is that they're like, you would force them to drive 45, or else if they drive too fast, they'd hit a red light. If they drive the 45, they would hit a green light and go. If you don't do that, then you're potentially allowing people to drive like they do now, and they probably push 60, 65 going there because they try to race the merge. And I kind of think that's more dangerous because right starting at the end of Diablo View, like where the community park parking lot is, I drive that way all the time because I live there. People start accelerating like crazy, trying to like jockey for position.
Yeah.
And if we force them to hit a red light, if they go too fast, I think that makes that will change behavior and overall make it safer. It's only going to queue up if people are speeding.
Yeah. No, I agree. What I'm just saying is, in terms of the timing of the light, maybe we'll leave some discretion to staff and the city traffic engineer specifically to look at sort of what's the best. I think we're all on the same page. We want to reduce the speeds, but we also don't want to cause unnecessary or unsafe queuing. So
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that, whatever the decision is on the actual timing, that our traffic engineer and city engineer are paying close attention to that so that we're not causing any unwanted consequences.
Okay. Maybe we give direction to staff to say, look at timing of the lights with the primary goal of, having people not exceed the speed limit. Yeah. And then all other like tangential issues that relate to timing of yellow lights and all the other stuff, we let them make a recommendation and go with that for now.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind if they queue up on the east side, but whatever.
Plus, once school gets back in, and we have new traffic signs and everything else going
we will.
in, that's going to disrupt some of this.
Yeah, that will help.
We hope.
Yeah, that will help, I hope.
Okay.
So those are the three things I think that we are all good with, if you guys are good with that.
I think so. And basically what we're saying for cost, we're talking about basically static speed limit signs in the range of $3,000 to $4,000 total.
Oh, it's less than that. It's 4 signs that we said, so that's $300 a sign.
I think we had ones on.
Oh, do we include the Dana Hills one?
Parkway, Eagle Peak, and a couple of other spots. We actually had some signs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Because Scott had recommended a few others. Okay. Yeah, that's cool.
So
plus, Mayor, the traffic study. Aren't we going to look into that as well?
Not yet.
Are we?
Well, we need to do all the. I think we need to do this stuff first.
We got to slow people down before we do another survey. Exactly.
Yes.
So does staff understand what all that jumble meant?
Let's start over.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I would make a motion that do I need a motion? No, I don't know.
Yes.
Yes, please.
All right, I'd make a motion that we ask staff to move forward with the speed limit signs as recommended by Scott, that we separately, that staff reach out to the Dana Hills HOA to communicate the potential for increased speed limits at the affected portion, ask residents to slow down generally, and informally poll residents about their sentiment about the proposed road diet. And then the third item is to direct staff to adjust the timing of all the lights, which I'm saying is 10, on Clayton Road throughout the entire length of the city, such that the primary intent is to have vehicles not exceed the speed limit.
Okay.
Boom. Motion.
There's a
That's the
motion.
motion.
Second.
Yeah, all right, good.
Hey, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Would
Scott?
would you indulge me to add a couple of more signs in there that would advertise that we have changed the signal timing?
Absolutely.
So that they're told it's timed to this speed limit, you exceed it, you hit a red light, so that we advertise that it pays to mind the speed limit.
Is that typically what's done? Is that a good thing, or do you want to I have no idea. Is that normally how they do it?
Usually they're on a street that's timed like that to a specific speed limit, they will advertise it saying, you want to hit green lights, this is the speed limit. And I think that that's a typical approach to it.
Would those signs get placed under the speed limit, the existing speed limit sign?
They might. It just depends on. There's a lot of variables to sign placement with sight distance and that sort of thing. And so we would make them prevalent. Whether they're right with the speed limit sign, I don't know, but it would say on the sign it is timed to this speed. So it would be actually an additional advertisement of the speed limit for that street section.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, my understanding from the staff report was that there would not be additional poles installed, but they would be attached to existing fixtures.
We would attempt that would be the case. Yes,
Yeah.
Try to place them on a street light, something that's an existing pole, so that we don't overpopulate the street with signage.
Okay.
That was done on Hillcrest Avenue in Antioch, if you want to Google map it and take a look. And I have one other question. Jeff, did you want us to set some or all of the signals for rest in red during nighttime?
During, well, we didn't really discuss those aspects. So
Okay, we'll hold off on it.
Yeah, I don't want to unilaterally just say that's the way.
Okay.
I'm very open to the idea, though.
I'm hearing from council that you're giving latitude to the traffic engineer on timing with the sole goal of having people not exceed the speed limit. So
Yes.
there's some latitude to figure out what is the best way to achieve that.
Yes.
And just,
If resting reds at night is part of that, then Lynn and Scott can come back and say that this is the best way. I think those are cool ideas.
the other thing that, you're giving us some latitude, and I will definitely be talking with Chief Warren on times of the day when this is the most prevalent for speeding, when they're giving the most tickets, because usually it's done where you have an AM and a PM progression sequence, and it runs a little bit more free per intersection during the day, so you don't clog up your side streets as much. But I will work with Elise on that one.
That sounds good. Okay, so Jim, do you understand all the amendments and agree to them?
Yeah, I concur.
Okay.
My second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Janet, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Catalano?
Aye.
Councilmember Diaz?
Yes.
Councilmember Wolf?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Wong?
Aye.
Mayor Pierce?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you staff. That was a lot, and hopefully we're being budget wise and we'll still accomplish our goal without having to take too many more drastic, more expensive steps. So let's all work on getting the word out. You've just given me a topic for the mayor's column. Slow down, everybody, or look out. Or red light.
Can you get a column in the Brentwood paper?
Well,
or tax strips.
Yeah, might be able to persuade somebody to do that. Let's see about that. All right. So the next item on our agenda, item 8B, is a proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month. It's listed as a draft. It looked just fine to me. So,
well, that's my old
changes.
School training from private sector, because everybody likes to add their 2 cents.
Yeah, the only thing I would have done is combine a couple of those whereases, because as I read it, I was mentally reading it out loud to someone and thinking people are falling asleep in the neighborhood.
Exactly why I call it a draft.
But I'm okay with it if everybody else is. Comments?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Jim, and then I'll call on
Yeah, I do want to make a couple of comments simply because we have in the past recognized other communities of interest. And the one thing I do want to say is that what's sort of been overlooked, and this is from the past census we had, the Hispanic population in Clayton as well, approaching 11%. So it's a significant body. And we want to make sure that this has been going on since 1968. And I reflect back on my career, one as the founding chairman of the Hispanic Community Foundation, as the executive officer of the State Cemetery Board, and now this proclamation. And there are some really highlights in this proclamation that I think need to be recognized, and particularly not only the variety of communities and countries that have recognized or stated their independence, and they're all listed in here. But the thing that it went from Hispanic Heritage Week, and now back in 1989 became a full month. But I want to point out the contributions, particularly of the military, and I want to really highlight that on the number one item, 61 people of Hispanic heritage have been awarded the Medal of Honor. And I think that is absolutely something that's been overlooked. 2 of them were members of the Navy, 13 were members of the U.S. Marines, 46 were members of the Army, and I just want to make sure that that doesn't go unnoticed. And one last comment, in my time as when I was working for the governor in Sacramento, I was stationed over at the State Cemetery Board. And when people are interred into a cemetery, it has to be approved, believe this or not, by the state. And in 1993, and this is one of those opportunities that comes to you once in a lifetime, I received a call that said, Cesar Chavez had just passed away, and we would like to have him buried at the farm workers headquarters in Keene, California. It's not a cemetery. So as the executive officer of the State Cemetery Board, I had to sign a waiver and an executed decree, if you will, to allow him to be buried on that property, which he is today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Tia?
Yeah, I just had one suggestion. I think it looks great overall, but we often, when we do these proclamations, including those that have also national significance, we also tie it to Clayton. And as Jim, you mentioned, I think you said 11% of Clayton residents are of Hispanic background. So I would love to have just one whereas clause, maybe towards the end, that recognizes that Clayton has many members of the community who are of Hispanic background, and just recognize that and tie it back to Clayton. So that would be my suggestion.
I would suggest that be after the whereas that says whereas since 1989. because that's where it transitions from sort of general population to armed services representation.
I think that's an excellent addition, Mayor. And again, why I made it a draft.
Okay. And I would just do a little grammatical thing and format for, and Janet knows and probably would do this automatically. We need a and at the end of each of those whereases before the next one. So there's time to take a breath in between. And then at the end, it's a now therefore. So Janet will get that fixed in the standard format, I have no doubt.
Thank you.
Any other suggestions, or do I have a motion to go ahead and make these changes and publish it?
I would move.
Go ahead, second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moved by Diaz, second by Catalano. If there's no further discussion, Janet, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Catalano,
Aye.
Councilmember Diaz,
Yes.
Councilmember Wolf,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Juan,
Aye.
and Mayor Pierce.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. All right, and thank you, Jim, for putting that together. That's wonderful. And we will get that signed as soon as Janet has it ready tomorrow. She'll give me a call and say everything's ready to come sign, and we'll get that out and ready. Who do you want this to go to, Jim?
I've been working with two agencies. One is the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which moved from Contra Costa to San Francisco, and the Hispanic Community Foundation that I was the founding chairman of. And
So
they would be delighted to.
Would you like to have 2 copies of it sent?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Can you get that information to Janet so she knows?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very good. Okay. All right, thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is council items. This is limited to council requests and directives for future meetings. Do I have any suggestions for future meetings?
Yeah, I would like to talk about the possibility of, how do I say this, of directing BBK to stop defending the lawsuit that was brought with regard to the Olivia project.
You repeat that? Sorry.
I'd like to talk about directing BBK to stop defending the lawsuit on behalf of the city with regard to the Olivia project as a future agenda item.
Okay.
And since they're going to trial,
I don't know if we
since
can
they're going to
actually-
trial on October 22nd, I believe is the date. Prior to that would be good.
So you're
I'm
saying
not
this?
sure what our obligation to the developer is on that.
Well, we could talk about it at a future agenda item is what it would be.
Okay.
That would be a closed session discussion, to be clear.
Okay. All right, I'll work with Fran on getting that scheduled then. Okay, anything else?
We skip over the Do the Right Thing initiative. Is that not on the agenda today?
No.
No?
I think that's on the next meeting.
Oh, it's on the next meeting. Okay.
I
That
think
was
so.
my mind.
I think so. Yeah. All right. Then that concludes the items on our regular agenda portion of the meeting. I do want to reiterate that we are going into closed session and we will adjourn after we report out after that. But since many of our audience members may not still be with us at that time, they're not going to wait with bated breath, I suspect. I do want to say that we're going to adjourn this evening's meeting in memory of our dear, dear friend, Rory Richmond, and have a moment of silence for all of the wonderful things he brought to the community of Clayton. If we can do that right now, and then we will go into our closed session. Thank you all. Thank you. We will now go into closed session for the purposes of conference with our labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated labor negotiator as our interim city manager to deal with two groups. One, the employee organization, the miscellaneous city employees, which is an undesignated group. And number two, an employee organization, the Police Officers Association, which is a represented group. So we will now go into closed session. Let's reconvene at 10:15 in closed session. That gives everyone a chance to get logged into the other meeting. For those of you in the audience, this meeting will stay open for us to report out at the end of our closed session, whenever that may be. And so if you really want to wait around and see what we have to say at that time, you may. But
it'll be scintillating.
We will
Yes.
we will recess and go into our separate meeting for closed session and reconvene at that meeting at 10:15. So the panelists on this meeting will leave this meeting and go to the other. Thank you. All right, everybody, we are back after our closed session, and I need to report out that we took no reportable action. We are now adjourned in memory of Rory Richmond.